Episode 284 of the Culture Trail Running Podcast. 284, Fred?
284.
284.
Let's do this.
The DNF episode.
Yeah, let's not fail here.
That's right. We're not going to be a DNS if this music doesn't fucking play.
From the belly of the Beast Coast, Glastonbury, Connecticut, this is the Culture Trail Running Podcast. We talk about all the fun shit that happens on the trails that most normal people don't care about. The language we use is fucking explicit and raw like the trails we run on, so don't listen with your kids! Culture is brought to you by our patrons and supporters, and we are 112% listener supported, and support is good.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Culture Trail Running Podcast. I'm your host, Art Byram, and I am joined today by two amazing people. Number one, in the Culture crew, I have Frederick Murolo.
I'm here, and my language is ducking raw.
It is
or maybe
ducking
it's
raw.
Sting raw. I don't know. It's hard to say.
It is. It's abbreviated.
Yeah.
And we have somebody who is near and dear to the culture community. We have Amy Mower Power joining us.
Idea.
Yay.
Right.
Amy Mower
So,
Power.
This is a special episode tonight because we're here to talk about the book that Amy put together with the help of several other people or contributors about DNF, about not finishing races. So, we all learn from, everybody can post up something when it goes great. They post that thing, I pushed through and everything went great. But quite often when things go sideways, that's the real learning opportunity, So, Amy, just welcome back to Culture to start with.
Thanks. Always love being here.
Yeah. What can you tell us about the book? Like how did it all get started?
Oh, well, it started amazingly enough from a DNF. My second DNF at Spartathlon, which was pretty painful. And after the experience, I just started thinking, everybody says you win or you learn. And it just made me start reflecting on DNFs and how that really, leads to the most learning. So as much as winning a race feels good, DNFing a race teaches you a lot. And I think there's actually more lessons to be learned from a DNF. So I started thinking about other people's stories and looking to see if I could pull a book together.
Wow. So, and you did actually, right?
I did. I was almost a DNF. It was sitting on a back shelf for about 9 or 10 months, but it's out.
Very good. Yeah.
I feel like at one point Art may have predicted that it would be a DNF. I heard it.
I was just wondering, I was starting to lose. I was thinking like, we have too many pages to be written or, this isn't, I don't know if this is going to happen. So how many people contributed to it and how many stories are there in total?
I'd have to take it out and count exactly, but I'm going to say there are, I believe there are 30 or 31 stories, and I would say there's probably 3 or 4 less contributors than there are stories because we have a couple of people who have 2 stories in there.
Okay, very good.
I counted them, Art. There are literally many stories.
There are many stories.
Yes.
And so these aren't like lightweight, I don't know. Like there's some pretty heavy hitters in this group, right?
It's a combo. There's some comedy, there's short and sweet, there's off the cuff, and then there's some really deep revelations. There's some information that's really, really personal to people and some transformation.
Yeah, no doubt. Because it's an emotional thing when you don't finish a race for some people, right? I mean, it's not always. It
absolutely can be, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, it can be the kind of thing that you just, what, hey, I didn't finish and, tomorrow's another day, or it can be like, I didn't finish and my life is shit,
It can be any, one end of the spectrum to the other.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. So, all right. Well,
I would like to state for the record that my DNFs were of minor consequence because I'm just a hobby jogger. It's really not a big deal. So
Okay. All right. So it wasn't a big deal. None of your DNFs were a big deal, huh?
You have a running streak, it ends, right? They're all going to end. So,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Mine varied. I think I had one that was one that I DNF that was like Ghost Train, where I just didn't go the distance that I wanted to, where because they let you go down to a shorter distance, but it was it turned into bad news for me. I felt bad.
Art, you should have been channeling Field of Dreams.
I know.
Go the distance.
Go the distance. Yeah.
Right?
I didn't. I wanted to go to the hotel room.
There was actually one race that the only reason I didn't DNF is because there were no hotel rooms available. I was lying on the ground and checking.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. There's a lot of stories like that. Oh, well, I could have DNF'd, but I would have had to walk 100 miles back to the start or something like that.
Yeah, I think that those are good finish stories a lot of times, right?
Yeah,
Right. Some races make it too easy to DNF.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Wow. So I'll tell you what. We have some people who are waiting to talk to us here. So
and it's like speed dating, right? We're gonna just click right through them.
It is. So I guess first up we have Jan Walker is going to be joining us here. And we're just making the connection here.
And all Vol-staters know Jan Walker.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, Jan appears as a character in the book in a couple of stories.
Mm-hmm. That's
Gotcha.
right. That's right. She's both a character and she's got her own story. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Jan, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
When did you start running the meat wagon?
2014.
Okay. That's because I did Vol State in 2011 and I was quite sure that you weren't there, but I wasn't always in the best mental state. So I wasn't 100% sure that you weren't there. So, okay.
Gotcha. So, Jan, before we start, as the host of the podcast here, my job is basically to get us off track and to go into the weeds and talk about the things that I want to talk about that nobody else cares about. So I wanted to ask you, I was reading up on you a little bit and I saw, it looks like you had a shoulder injury, right?
I did. In 2015, I was riding my bicycle in a charity bike ride, and just a freak accident. I was on my triathlon bike down in my aero bars, and you just do things kind of on the split second, and there was a guy coming toward me. There was one passing me, so I was going to slow down, but instead of using I just pulled one arm off of my aero bars, and when I did, I used my brake for my front wheel instead of my back.
Oh.
And it jackknifed, and I was down before I knew it. It was one of those things like where you see in the when you see in the cartoons where it takes them 12 days to fall.
Yes.
And I was like, you were in the middle of it, and something bad is going to happen, but there's nothing you can do about it. So,
Gotcha.
Anyway, so that's how that happened. And that was one of the pictures I guess I sent Amy, was me laying on the ground after they rolled me over, and I had that big blood splotch right there next to my head.
Jan, that was the best
picture.
picture.
That video to you, they said, "Is that blood?" And I said, "Yes, it is."
I think that might have been the best picture, Jan.
It totally was.
The DNF picture.
Yeah.
Some people look bad, but you look the worst.
I have to say that
they caught me. The blood, actually, I never hit my head. That was the thing. I didn't even scratch my helmet. I have one of those helmets with a face shield on it, and it must have popped off. The only thing I can think of is it popped off when I went down, and when it did, it nicked just very small spot right above my left eyebrow. And that thing went spurting. In fact, when they closed it up, it took one stitch to close it. It was so small, but it was spraying everywhere. And they thought, I wondered why everybody sounded so concerned. I couldn't see them. My face was down and my arm was down. And I wondered why they sound so concerned. And I knew afterwards from looking, all they could see was blood pooling out in front of my face. They couldn't see my face.
Yes.
And I know probably thought my brains were all smashed up.
Gotcha. So,
but
Jan,
all it was spurting up over my eyebrow.
Oh boy. There are a few things in this world. I've broken a lot of bones, like toes, arms, legs, wrists a couple times, collarbones. And in the middle of that, I dislocated and broke my shoulder. And I would trade every broken bone that I've ever had against that broken shoulder. That is, without a doubt, it's the most pain I've ever been in, is a shoulder injury. So I read about yours.
Pretty painful.
Yeah, it is. That is something. So we have, so first of all, like you've done, we're not going to talk so much about what's actually in the book, just to let people know out there. Each person here contributed a story about a DNF, and that's all in the book. But now you've just done all sorts of great things.
Hey.
Oh, there you are.
Finally.
Yeah, you've done all sorts of great things. I guess you've been across the country, right? And Vol State and a whole bunch of things like that, right?
Right. I did a transcon in 2016 from Oceanside, California to Ocean City, Maryland. And then, I've done Vol State, and that's what got me into the meat wagon duties.
Oh, boy.
And then I've done some, after I got back off of my transcon, I had some injuries that I still have because of the transcon. So I actually got into long distance bike packing.
And sure.
I did too. That's one of the stories, of course, in there. Yeah. I've done actually more bike packing since 2016, though I've done a few other things. I've done Bloody 11W and a few of those things, but I only started when I was 52. So
awesome! I got to ask you: have you ever done the Erie Canal Trail
last year? 52?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Y'all are on top of each other.
Go ahead,
I'm sorry. You said you started when you were 52. I figured that was like last year or maybe a couple of years ago.
Aren't you kind? No, well, I always hope I'm looking younger than I am. I'm 65 next month. So, I got 50. I'd always been real active. I'd always hiked. Back in my younger days, I played team sports, basketball, soccer, that kind of thing, softball. But, when you have to adult, you have to do things and you can't do what you want to do. So my husband and I owned a business, and I had been spending all my time with the business. And so I sort of got out of doing anything other than maybe hiking in the Smokies every once in a while. Okay. So I just kind of literally got up one day and decided to go out to, start running and walking. I was 52 years old when I did it. So, and Vol State, speaking of stupid stuff, there was 6 months between when I signed up for Vol State and when I did it, and I had never done an ultra when I signed up for it.
Wow.
I didn't do my first ultra until February before Vol State, which is in July. Mm-hmm. And then I did a series of those over, between February and July. And then when I went to Vol State, the longest I'd ever done was the 50-mile part of Keys 100.
Sure. Yeah.
And to this day, I hold the record for the slowest 50 miles that's ever done.
Wow. You have
like 22, I think it was 22 and a half hours.
You have the SKT.
I do. I'm very proud of it. Believe me, it was hard fought, but that's the longest I had been, and everything else had been a 50K that as far as the ultra distance before then. So, I hadn't done it. And ironically, I think I remember I got somehow or other got to the Vol State thing because of kind of in the back of my mind wanting to do a transcon. Mm-hmm. And John Price told me, well, if you want to do that, you need to come do Vol State because it's kind of, it's kind of a microcosm of a real transcon. And he's right. I mean, 100%.
Awesome.
Vol State is actually harder because you have time constraints, but that's how that happened.
Understood. Okay, that's great. So, Jan, what we have is I have a couple questions here, and it's kind of like we're going to let you choose a number between 1 and 5.
It's like you're on a game show, Jim.
Yeah, and then that's going to determine what question you get. So if you could give us 3. Okay. So number 3 is memorable hallucinations. Tell us.
Well, we'll probably have to pick another number. I've never had the privilege of having a hallucination ever.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Then maybe you could answer this question for me. Then I'm listening to you speak, and I sense that I'm pretty good with picking where people are from. I'm thinking like you're from New York. Is that right?
I think you need to get your hearing aids checked, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is so where are you
I'm born
from?
and bred good Big Orange, Tennessee Vol, Knoxville,
Very
Tennessee.
good. Okay. Very good. All right. Well, Jan, I think we're gonna let me ask you this now. Boy, so okay, so why don't you pick another number? How about that? That would be good. I feel
4.
like you got robbed. 4.
Try 4.
Okay. The worst thing I ever ate was during a race.
Oh, I ate the shot blocks off of the ground that had ants in it.
Wow.
No, so was it the ants or the shot blocks that you didn't like? That's
Yeah. I mean,
the ants. The thing was, it was in Florida, and all the ants are usually fire ants.
Oh,
so it was hard to get them off of there. And I mean, I was worried they were going to sting me in my mouth, but at the moment, I didn't care. I just needed the shot blocks. So I ate the shot blocks that were covered with ants I scraped up off a hot pavement in Florida during a race.
Okay, was that cross Florida thing that you did?
No, actually it was a triathlon.
Okay.
And I had spied the shot blocks on the way out. And when I turned around, none of the aid stations had any water. They had run out of everything, and I had to have something, and it was like 9,000 degrees. And I remembered that I saw them over on the other side of the street when I went by. So I actually went back over and looked for them, and I found two things. One of them was too far gone, but the other one still had some of the plastic on it, but ants had gotten into it. And I scarfed that thing down like nobody's business. And to this day, I don't regret one bite of it. Believe me.
Hey, you know what? We do what we got to do, right?
You got to do what you got to do. Jan, I got to tell you, I appreciate your candor with the newbies from Vol State when they're asking like all the details on the web, like on the Facebook page, like what if I want to get in a car just for a minute and do this, and your answer always is like, don't be a baby, just run the race.
Well, everybody wants to split hairs. I mean, the race is really simple. And I tell you what, I might sound frustrated. Believe me, Gary pulling what left of his hair out every time one of them asks that, because he looks at it as straightforward. Take care of yourself, be an adult, and stop trying to split hairs. It aggravates me to no end. I'm a pragmatist by nature, and that I have to sit on my hands a lot of times when I see that. So I try to be, over the years, I've tried to be more diplomatic when I answer those questions.
I think you're pretty straightforward, Jan. And I like it, because people are always trying to game it somehow. Like, what if I did this? Would that be legal? And it's just like, if you have to ask the question, no.
That's right.
Answer, right?
And that's what Gary said. If you have to ask the question, then it's no.
Right.
All right. Well, Jan, I'm glad that you could come out and share a little bit about you, just kind of like a teaser for people who are going to pick up the book. I think, the picture that I saw was awesome. And, I think that people will enjoy reading your stories. So thank you very much.
All the stories are really good. I'm glad Amy put it together. It's a great book.
Excellent. Very good. I am too.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think we have Joey Lichter's in the waiting room, so I think we're going to bring him in. Do you know Joey?
Yep. I know Joey. I had him in my meat wagon one year.
I was going to say,
Jan is a character in Joey's story.
I was going to say, you're a character in his story, right?
You can say hi there as you're passing by there.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
We can. Yes.
Joey?
Awesome. I know you said for us to have really good Wi-Fi and to be on it 5 minutes before, so I have really shitty Wi-Fi, but I got on 15 minutes before.
Right. Well, yeah.
I think that's a wash.
That adds up.
That's a wash. That's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah. It is. On average, I mean, that sounds pretty good.
You're in the right place, Joey.
How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Good. So, Joey,
Jan wants to know if you need to get picked up somewhere and DNFing right now.
It depends on who's picking me up, but yeah.
And I'm actually sitting in the meat wagon doing the interview. So,
so apropos.
That's perfect.
Not to be rude, but I don't want her to pick me
up. So, Joey, you're another Vol State person, right?
Yeah. In fact, in the car, I actually have my medallion to remind me of my overcoming. This is what you earn out there. It's a little wooden thing that tells you the time on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came through, last goes 7 days, 17 hours, and 3 seconds. What about those 3 seconds? Could have gotten here quicker. It's like, well, at least I finished this time. So
there you go. Excellent. Well, I think tonight we're not going to talk. We're not going to talk so much about actually what's in the book, but we do kind of want to go on to just some other things. Kind of give people just a flavor for some of what the stories might hold. So, Joey, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so by day, I'm a professor at a university down here in South Florida. I was trained as a chemist. My teaching interests range from chemistry, psychedelics, to a class that I have on sports. I actually advise our student running club at FIU, and they were just asking me for movie ideas for their social night, so I was suggesting to them I was actually suggesting to them a few different styles. I wanted them to watch Run and Become, which is about the 3,100 miles around the square in
sure,
Queen.
Yeah.
But besides that, I play a little bit of music. I read a little bit, cook a little bit. I try not to spend any time in Jan's car if I can. That's really all there is to me. I'm not that complex.
Gotcha. So when you're out running there, do you ever get songs stuck in your head?
Oh yeah, all the time.
So what do you?
When I was in, I remember in particular when I was in Vol State, I kept singing. That song, Amadeus, Amadeus, Amadeus. Yeah. I just kept singing. Armadillo, 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 and that became a very regular repertoire.
So is it because the armadillos walk too slow, or because the cars go too fast? You think, Joey? I don't know. What do you think?
There's just so many dead ones, and I feel like they need some love. They need to be known. They're not forgotten. So I'll sing their name over and over.
I actually brought a little piece of armadillo carapace back from Vol State, like different things, like little totems I brought back. That was one of the things I brought back because I saw so many dead armadillos.
Yeah. I listen to a lot of music when I run, but mostly music that doesn't have words so that I can make up my own words to them and just whatever I'm feling. This past weekend, I was in a race called Hungryland 100, which is on the Lake to Ocean Trail. Jan's familiar with this one in sort of South Florida, but a little bit like Palm Beach. And I had like a the music was kind of like electronic, and it had this sort of rap feel to it. So I started singing "Me So Hungry," because me so hungry, oh me so hungry, oh me so hungry, and I was trying to keep myself awake because it was middle of the night, and I didn't want to get eaten by an alligator. So I figured my singing was probably going to keep the alligators away.
Now, were there other people around you, Joey?
This was a 14-mile loop, and it was really barren out there. It was really desolate. I saw a boar. There was a wild boar that crossed the path, and then I kind of waited on it, and then I walked up, and it grunted at me, and then I ran a little quicker. It's like, all right. Not gonna bother you or your babies. Yeah.
Wow. So I just want to kind of give you let you know about something, a service that Cultra has. We have because lots of people get songs stuck in their head. We have this thing where if you ever get a song stuck in your head, you can call this phone number. The number is 203 dog gent, like a gentleman dog. 203 dog gent. So if you just picture a dog in a tuxedo or a bow tie or whatever, and you call up that number and you sing the song that's stuck in your head on the answering machine there, on the voicemail, and we'll play it back on our podcast, and then you get the song out of your head, so it helps you, and then we get to hear the song, so it entertains us, and you get to become podcast famous. So
you guys better watch what you're offering here. I do a lot of stupid things that take a lot of time. I was actually just in England doing this Tunnel 200 race where you're not allowed to listen. You're not allowed to listen to music, and you're not allowed. The race director, he also says you're not allowed to talk to each other, but everybody talks to each other. It's sort of a joke, but I definitely was singing stuff then. Yeah, next time, and I think I'm going to go back. He just offered me a chance of redemption, so I have another DNF I need to deal with now.
that sounds like that's like sensory deprivation, right?
Yeah, I liked it. I just was too slow. I did the first 127 and a half hours, and you have 55 hours. And I knew I wasn't going to even split. And if you stay there, like when I dropped, it was 8 o'clock. So I had another racer that was still awake that drove to the pub that was still a 2-mile walk from where the tunnel is. But if I were not to call her and stick around till like 1 a.m. and then still not make the cutoff, you're basically like sleeping in a tunnel like a leprechaun or something, because there's no way to really get an Uber or a taxi in the middle of the night there. So I need to be faster. I need to have some I need to look at my own chapter in this book to learn how I fixed my DNF from Ball State and get better at the redemption on this one.
Very good.
I don't really like talking to people that much. I know this probably doesn't seem like a professor would say that, but I liked the quiet in the tunnel. It was perfect, and the darkness was even better. I don't want people looking at me either. Just run.
There you go. So it's headlamp the whole time, huh?
Well, no. There's light, and they have these little lights along the edges of the tunnel, and there is light on the other sides. And it actually snowed, so it was like bright white when you came to the outside. You're like, ah! But at like the hours of 11 to 5 a.m., they shut all the lights off, and it's dark outside, and then you need a headlamp because you can't see anything. Yeah.
Wow. Huh. That sounds pretty cool.
The coolest thing about it is the sides of the tunnel are like these rock, formations, and they start turning into things, And I teach about psychedelics. I'm a fan of psychedelics, but you don't need psychedelics in there. It really does. I saw like the forefathers. I saw Lincoln, John, Washington, maybe Dave. I don't remember the forefathers, but there was some of them, and they were cheering me on at one point.
Awesome.
And I felt really bad too, because I was like, oh guys, I'm not going to finish, but they're like kind of cheering in the rocks. It was
question 4 would have been right for Joey.
I know.
I know.
He's answering question 4 we didn't even ask for. Right.
Yeah. So, so did you ever feel like you might have run, like there was a possibility of just like running into the wall?
When I got tired, I found myself looking at the wall because I didn't bring much to sleep on. I was, as a foreign runner, I didn't really have much. So I found myself looking at the wall to find, was there like any indentation that looked like I could hide in this little crevice in the wall. And I found one, which then later I think I saw some guy pissing in that same area afterwards, which kind of had me worried later. But I sat there and I came up with an idea, and I'll tell you what the idea is, but first I'll tell you why. I sat there and I kind of creviced myself in there, and then I thought I could just sleep. This is probably whatever, like halfway in the tunnel. And then all the British runners like, "You okay, mate? Everything fine, mate? You okay?" And I'm like, I'm just trying to sleep. So then I decided like a really great invention for ultra runners would be a beanie that when you pull it down over your face, it said, "Leave me alone, I'm just sleeping," instead of like, "I'm dead," which they probably would think of us. Yeah.
That's I like that idea. That works. I think that's pretty good.
If you make it, I want royalties.
Okay. All right. I think we'll come to an agreement here. So what's that? Amy?
I said you do have a gear shop.
I do. I mean, that's like, I can make that happen. So,
well, to be fair, I'm killing it with the sales on the DNF book. So I probably don't even need the royalties. You guys can keep that. I'll be kind to you on that. Aren't
we all? I mean, aren't we all? So, so I have to ask you if you could, we're going to play a little game now. So we have 5 questions, but you're not going to have to answer all 5 of them. You're only going to have to answer one of them. So I need you to choose a number between 1 and 5.
But not 4.
Mm-hmm.
No, it can be any number.
Really? I don't know. He kind of already answered 4.
Well,
I think that was 3.
Was that 3?
That was 3. Yeah.
So I've got 3 numbers. I can choose 1, 2, or 5. I can choose 1, 2, or 5. Okay, I understand.
Or 4.
Or 4.
I'll go with 5.
5. Okay. 5 is vomiting mid-ultra. Good or bad?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with good. I think you are letting the demons out. And most, as a college professor, I would say that probably the most important thing you learn in college is the puke and rally. So
right on.
There's atomic theory, there's Newton's laws of gravity, and puke and rally. Those are the 3 key things I think I learned. So,
I can't dispute that.
That was how I came out of college.
Yeah.
I think that theory goes back to I think the Vikings and early seafaring people. You start to get sick, and then I mean they didn't get seasick, okay, but if they did, they would say like it's always best to just like you throw up and you feel better, right?
Now the only weird thing about my answer is that those who do read the chapter that I wrote will find that vomit is included in my story. I think when I looked up at Jan coming out of the toilet with a little bit of vomit dribbling down the side of my face, she had to ask me the question, "Do you want to call it?" And I was like the most pathetic, wet dog looking up at her like, "Do you think I have what it takes to get through the rest of this? Like, look at me." So, but at the end, everything worked out for the better. I've done more races. Jan hasn't picked me up. So this is, maybe it was necessary. I say puke, get the demons out. If you can't go any further, at least you got the puke out, right?
That's right. You know what? And it's a good thing. Like, hey, I tried. I ran until I threw up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to say
you
like,
puke? Right.
You didn't try?
Yeah. You don't want to hold on to it. If you've got to puke, you got to puke. If you're like nauseous and you're sticking your fingers down your throat because you think, I'm probably not a fan of that. I think that may be I've seen people do that. I've crewed somebody that did that, and we were sort of starting a date, and when I saw her do that, it was over. I was like,
but do you think like borderline eating disorder, that kind of thing? Like, I'll probably just feel better if I purge. Right.
Eating disorders aside, it's just gross to watch somebody stick their fingers down their throat.
It is.
Like, I've seen gross things, but it's like you're forcing yourself too much. Like, just don't do that. Don't do it.
It's even worse though, because like you got to think about it. It's not like anybody's fingers. Like these are ultra runner fingers.
Yeah.
Like where have those fingers been even? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just the thought,
I hope she doesn't watch this.
Oh my gosh.
I think she quit running, so that's good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, Joey. Well, anything to add before we got some people in the waiting room, so we're probably going to move on. But you have anything to add before you go?
I don't have much else. I just wanted to say thanks for having me on. I wanted to say thanks to Amy for organizing this book, because it's been really fun to read other people's stories. And of course, great to see Jan, because she's Jan and she's part of my story. And she's, Jan, in fact, I was looking at my memories in Facebook, and it said like 8 years ago or 7 years ago, I was at the USA Triathlon coaching where we met. So that's it's our friendversary about right around now. So.
Yep, for sure.
Very good.
Thanks for having me on. Well, enjoy. Yeah.
Joey, thank you for spending the time here.
Thanks,
I
Joey.
appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
And that's good. I think some good stories there. I loved hearing about the tunnel, and that's
and the forefathers. Come on, the forefathers rooting him on.
And the forefathers, yes.
Not everybody gets that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, very
right,
good.
Guys.
Okay.
Gals, have a nice rest of your night.
Thank you. You too. Have a good night.
Thanks, Joey.
Take care. Okay.
Bringing on Shamus.
Yeah. Yep. Amy, you want to do an introduction here once Shamus gets on here? And hello.
Hi.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Yeah. Can't see you, Shamus.
Oh,
What's going on, man?
Here, start video. How about that?
There he is.
All right.
Very good.
All right.
Very good. So, welcome.
Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, glad to have you here. So, could I ask you to introduce yourself? Just like maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. We're not going to probably talk so much about like actually the story in the book, but we kind of want to talk about just some other things, and
I'll tell you.
See where things
go. Whatever. Well, I started running in 2007, and I became an ultra runner in 2008, and jumped right into it. And I've been focused lately on doing like long journey runs and 6-day races and that kind of stuff, because I live in New Jersey and I don't really have a whole lot of trails. Trail running is fun, but it's it's not that acceptable. I
got to interrupt you. So where are you in New Jersey?
I live on the East Coast. You might be able to see it out my windows in the back. It's town is called Perth Amboy.
Sure. Yeah.
How far are you from the big bridge?
The big bridge?
The one with like 6 lanes in each direction on the parkway?
Oh, that one is I'm really close to it. That actually goes over the Raritan River, which is behind me.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I used to.
That's what I think of when I think of Perth Amboy. I think of that huge, 6 lanes in each direction bridge on the parkway.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild town. It's interesting. Keeps me on my feet. It's pretty busy.
I used to windsurf at Sandy Hook all the time.
All right, yeah, I can see Sandy Hook. Yep.
Cool. Very good. All right. So you started, you started in like 2007 running. In 2008 you said your first ultra, right?
Yeah, I started initially running because I was out of shape and everything. I ran cross country and wrestled in high school. But around age 27, 28, I needed to start doing something fit. And there was a girl that I worked with who ran a marathon, and she was like making a big deal about how difficult it was. And she ran it under 3 hours, so it was really fast. So I'm like, all right, well, I could care less about the time, but I kind of had a challenge thrown down. So I'm going to try to run a marathon. I trained for a couple of weeks and then just jumped right in and did it. It took like 5.5 hours. So it was terrible. I was puking the whole way. But I'm the kind of guy that's like, I'm not afraid of, a negative experience if I could learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, each time that I do a race, I try to take something back from it and,
Gotcha. That's cool. So, yeah, it's weird. It's cool that you jumped right into it, because a lot of people are, they're kind of afraid to try things that they don't know if they can do them. So did you
I found the 6-day races to be easier than all of them because it takes a lot of mental focus and everything, and you got to run all week, but you have a lot of time to make mistakes and you have a lot of time to, reboot and to recover, which you don't have in a typical 100-mile race or anything less than that. Yeah. I mean, you can walk and take walk breaks and stuff, but 3-hour naps aren't really happening too often in 100-milers. If you want to finish.
That all kind of goes downhill, right? Like you ask like a marathoner, they hate the 5K, right? Because they're like, oh my God, I gotta run in that thing. I gotta get it done. And I never discriminated running or walking. To me, it's all the same. It's all moving forward. So I didn't care that my pace was going down to 4 miles an hour in multi-day. That's actually really fast. Gotcha.
But I also don't care about running fast too. I like doing that. So I've done track races. I've run at the Armory. I've run 200 and 400 meter races.
Really? Cool.
I've done a wide range. I suck at all that stuff.
Where were you running? So you were running in the Armory. What were you for school or? No,
they have open races that are available to just old fogies. As long as you're actually no, you don't have to be a USATF member. USATF does have track races also in New York and New Jersey. Mm-hmm. The ones at the Armory, you just show up and do. It's mostly like training for college kids.
Yeah,
but it's like the major league of indoor running, and they have them at the Ocean Breeze too in Staten Island, which is a really fast indoor track.
Huh. Very
that's
cool.
where I set my mile PR and my half-mile PR.
Excellent. So you talked about adventure running. Like, what sort of adventure, things have you done?
I just did one in August where I ran across New Jersey. So I started in Cape May and I finished at High Point.
Excellent. So I know Cole Crosby did that a while back.
So Cole he started at the top of the the bottom of the tower, and he ran to the lighthouse in Cape.
Yes.
So I did a little bit farther on both ends. I did the absolute longest journey that you could do in New Jersey. He also did it in 48 hours, which was a day faster than me. So he's like a good runner. I'm kind of a schlepper. But I had a good crew.
Speed does not mean necessarily good,
Yeah, no, I mean, I was happy. I was planning for it to take me 4 days because it was like 200 miles, but I had a couple of really good crew people, and I was able to do it in just under 3 days.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. That must have been now. Do you know if you took the same route that he did or?
Nah, I was freestyling the whole time.
Yeah, gotcha.
I spent the entire way looking at my phone and not at cars and stuff. It's all dangerous. But the Jersey drivers too didn't give me a break too much. Route 9 was tough.
I picture running down 22 in Kenilworth.
No, I wasn't going anywhere near that shit. But I did actually accidentally end up on Route 80 in Sparta.
Oh my gosh!
In Mount Olive. I took a wrong turn on International Drive, and I went onto the on-ramp, and I was actually on the highway before I said, "Oh shit," and turned around and went back fast.
Yeah, and that's pretty hilly there too. So.
Oh yeah, that's where it starts getting a little bit hilly. The real hills were north of the fairgrounds, like the last 15 miles when you got up to High Point State Park. That's also too the funnest part. That's when it got awesome.
Gotcha. Yeah. Very good. So.
Not great shoulders on those roads, though, Shamus, right?
There's none, Fred. But they
pay attention.
Have courteous drivers, which they do not have anywhere south of there. So south of there, it's a death trap, and you're fucking running for your life. But north of there, it's cows, and it's basically like you're not even in New Jersey anymore. You're in a nice place.
I know, it's so different. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's great.
Jersey's like 3 different states.
I would
The
love
Pine
to
Barrens
move.
are different too. You got
I would love to move up north of the fair and basically make believe I'm in the country now, but I still live in.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Wow. That's yeah. It is funny because there's like you're right. New Jersey has it's so completely different. Like some parts of it are just like
Yeah, the South is all sand.
Sussex County. I mean, it's like or Long Beach Island. They're just like might as well be different planets. So
yeah, and the Pine Barrens.
Pine Barrens, Pine Barrens are awesome. South,
they are awesome.
Basically, the Raritan River. It's a whole lot of sand.
Yeah.
The peninsula is just all sandy.
Very good, huh? So, so we have a game here that we play, and we have 5 questions.
All right,
and you're going to just answer one of them. So, if you could give us a number between 1 and 5.
All right, 3.
3.
Yeah.
All right. 3 is a favorite, right? So 3 is memorable hallucinations.
The most memorable hallucination, like during running or like back in college?
Or it could be back.
I used to take a lot of drugs before I started running, so
didn't we all?
But I have had best hallucinations have all been from running. I would say there was probably 2. One during Vol State when I was going into Lewisburg. It was like maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and the sun was it was real cloudy. The sun was just starting to come up, and it was still really, really dark. But I saw, and this was really clear in my mind, I saw like a bunch of triangle lights that started, kind of moving around in like geometric patterns, like fractals. And it was all it was all hallucination, but it ended up taking up my whole entire field of vision, and it took up the whole sky and everything like that. And it persisted for a good 3 or 4 minutes, and I was it's like I was able to interact with the hallucination itself and like move the triangles that were all kind of spinning around, move them around based with my hands and stuff. That was pretty wild. And then I had something similar to that happen at the fair after like 4 or 5 days of running, where the pattern of the bricks when you're going through the start finish line. It basically went vertical, and I became immersed inside the whole entire thing. And it was like there were like these cubes all around me and stuff. Happened on 3 laps in a row. Was
that a 6-day you were doing there?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, hallucinations don't really get good until after 4 or 5 days.
I've never had one. I've run 4 6 days. Never had a hallucination.
You got gypped.
I know.
You should take some mushrooms at one of them aid stations. And
I think it matters.
Clearly, I'm doing it wrong.
I don't know. Amy, I also space out too. I mean, I'm rarely focused on racing or taking the race serious. I'm starting to get more into that now. But the first couple, I've done 5 of them now, and the first couple ones I did, I was just freestyling. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just putting one foot in front of the other, learning as I went. Not being afraid. I got every injury in the book, every blister you can get, cankles, illness, cellulitis. 3 years ago, I had cellulitis during the race, and I cleared it without antibiotics during the race, but it cost me like 7 hours in the tank.
So there's probably people out there who have no idea what you're talking about. What is cellulitis?
It's basically like a MRSA infection on your skin, like staph infection. You pick it up from having low immunity from running, combined with there's microbes everywhere. So you basically, everybody has it on their skin. It's just you lose your ability to fight it off, and your ankles start to blow up, and your front of your shins turn all red, and they get splotchy, and then it's extremely painful, and you got to stop, because what happens is if you keep doing damage, the infection spreads into your blood. And that's what cellulitis is. And then it can get into your bloodstream, and then you got problems.
Wow.
But you also got to be a moron. I mean, well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't be mean about it. You have to ignore a lot of warning signs continuously over and over again for a long ass time. If you
These people do, though, right?
well, I mean, you kind of get what you deserve.
That's what ultra runners do, right? There's a
But
warning
if you-
sign, like
so-
I'm just going to go right past it.
The guys who wear shoes that are too small, who've been getting blisters for 30 years and still aren't going to ever change because they like their shoes. Bro,
Right.
just get one size longer and your blisters are going to go away. It's the same shit. Sometimes people get set in their ways and whatever. But it's hard to know what's working and what's not working. It helps to keep track of things.
Yeah, I think that's
fair, Shamus. You going back to the fair this year?
Well, I'm sorry, what was that, Fred?
Are you going back to the fair this year?
Yeah, I haven't registered yet, but I'm most likely. Arun offered to crew for me, full crew, for all 6 days.
Wow, all right.
Same what I did for him last year, and so there's no way that I'm going to pass him up on that.
Yeah, you got to go.
He's doing 2 10-day races. He's going to do the Street Chenmoy, and then he's going to crew for me at the fair, and then he's going to do the Dome, the 10 days in the Dome.
Wow, 10 days in the Dome. Wow.
Yeah, he's actually flying in from India tomorrow, and he's going to do a couple days. The guy, by the way, if you guys don't know who we're talking about, he's Arun Bardwaj is India's top multi-day runner. He's got all the Indian records. I met him at the fair. We were both doing I was doing my first 3-day race in 2016. He was there, and we just struck up conversations. And then since that time, our friendships blossomed. Now I help him with his sponsors, and I buy him because he doesn't have any kind of American money connections or anything. So I buy him shit, and then he comes and gives me like $1,000 in cash from his sponsors. They pay for all of his flights, all of his like race fees, and they give him spending cash.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that sounds that sounds.
It's all right,
cool.
but you're kind of a hoe. You got to do what they tell you to do, and you gotta
and including a lot of racing.
It's not unlike podcasting. It's kind of like being a podcast host, right? No, we don't take any sponsors. So,
no, I'm all self-sponsored. I have one sponsor. It's Uncle Sam. I deliver the mail. That's what I do for a living. And
excellent. Yeah,
that's how I make my money.
So there's a guy out in that I met out in Bend in Oregon doing Cascade Lakes Relay. He did it solo out there. I had him on the show a while back. I'm just drawing a blank on his name. And his dad was in the post office. And so he always runs with the Cap.
Okay. My rain gear is for racing is my rain gear for work.
Okay.
Yeah, they give us like an allowance every year, like $400 to buy all the postal gear. And the rain gear is really, really good. It's all Gore-Tex shit.
Very good. Huh. Yeah. Well, Shamus, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Anything?
No, it was my pleasure, man.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you. And, looking forward, hopefully our reader, people will buy the book and get a chance to read the rest of your story there. So I'm sure it's a good one.
I appreciate it. Thanks for,
And I'll catch you down the road.
You're one of the guys who has 2 stories in the book.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a did not start story.
Right.
I desperately tried to get to, but I failed. But I did keep my life, and I did not get arrested.
All
those
good
things.
Yeah,
right.
Those are life goals, right?
About that close to getting arrested.
Very good.
That's a story for another day. On that note, take it.
Excellent. Thank you, Shamus. Appreciate you joining.
Good to see you, Shamus.
Thanks,
Take care.
Take care.
All right. Next joining, we have John Calabrese. Hey, John, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we sure can.
Yes, we can.
Very good. So, John, welcome.
Hey, good to be here.
Glad to have you. So, Amy, how do you know John?
We've been Facebook friends for ages. I don't know if we've ever actually raced together. Have we, John?
We have. Remember John Price's race, that weird one where you went around a golf course, like a 2 mile?
Yes. That was my first DNF.
Yeah, we did it.
Okay, I met John at my first DNF.
Okay,
Perfect. Very appropriate.
Now, Fred, have you run with John before or no?
I have not. No.
Okay. All right. So, John, maybe you could give us a little bit of background. Like, you got to testify here. We don't know who the hell you are. No.
If you check my ultra sign up, I've got a lot of DNF, so I have a lot of experience. subject matter. But yeah, the one in particular for Amy's story is that was a good one. Yeah, I was really stupid on that one. So yeah, if you, yeah.
Awesome. So what we want to do tonight is, you know, I think we're going to probably not talk about what's in the book actually so much, but you know, because we don't want to give away the milk. You know, if we give the milk away, nobody's going to buy the cow. So,
Right.
you know, so you got to just listen to that mooing and you know, and get jealous, right, Fred?
Yes, that's it. Right. Don't cow the milk by it. Yes, right.
That's right.
Well, that.
Don't snort the milk powder. Anyway,
Yeah. That's
so
the thing.
John, tell us a little bit about yourself then.
All right. Well, basically, I've been running since about 2017. Got into ultras kind of a weird way. I just got done with, you know, I ran a marathon and I wanted more. I was like, this is over. I got sad and I just was like, you know, I want to do more. So I somehow got pulled into trail running. It was like the next available race by me, a trail marathon. And yeah, after that, I started running 50Ks, did Amy's 100K around a freaking golf course. And then, yeah, started running 100 milers, DNFing a lot of 100 milers. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good this year. I think I've ran about over 100 endurance races, but yeah, I'm one of those dudes that's out there every weekend. So I'm kind of addicted and I love it.
Very good. Very good. So I wondered what was like, so where do you live then?
I'm in basically I live in Culpeper, Virginia, about an hour from DC. That's another connection I have to Amy. We both were I'm sure Amy's still in it, but the Virginia Happy Trails Running Club. I do a lot of my races with them. They do a lot of like really low key fat ass ultras. You know, just everyone brings like a food item. We have lots of like, you know, dedicated volunteers that maintain the aid stations, mainly the Massanutten Mountain, which unfortunately, you know, we have the wildfires out there right now. I think hopefully everything's out now, but we couldn't do an event this weekend, unfortunately. But I'm always out there with them doing crazy shit.
And John was actually really helpful getting a couple of other contributors from the Virginia Happy Trails group. So there's actually a small group of contributors in the book from that area. And John, I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks.
Woo! Yeah, Happy Trail. We do a lot of stupid shit. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we're good contributors for the book.
So what are the trails like in Virginia?
So it's kind of funny. Like there's a lot of easier ones, like, you know, just like, you know, single track, but where we run all rocky, you know, mountainous. Yeah, some pretty terrifying stuff. It's good, really good, you know, tough technical terrain here.
Very good.
I would vouch for that.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And so you like running trails better than roads or loops or anything, or? That's
kind of an interesting question. So like, I honestly, this is going to be really messed up. I don't really like doing trails. It's hard. You know, I can't run fast on them.
You can say that. This is a safe place. So
it's not popular, but I mean, like, yeah, I
hate trails.
Yeah. I don't know why I do this shit. I mean, like, because it's so hard and I have to challenge myself to do it. But like, yeah, a lot of the races I do, if you look at my times, it's nothing more than like a speed hike. Like I might be able to open up on a certain, you know, part of the, you know, the trail, but like, or if there's like a slight road crossing, you know, across the street to the next section of trail. But like, yeah.
Well, you know what, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, right? I mean, because it's like, you know, when they always say this out on the trails, like, you know, you got to hike your own hike and you got to run your own run. Like, and if, you know, I don't know, I think there's room for people to run roads, and there's people can run trails, and you can do point to point. You can run around a 1/4 mile track if that's what makes you happy, you know. And each of them have.
You can have a road runner sign up for the cut.
Ooh. Yeah, it's you know, you never know what you're gonna, you know, everything has its own appeal, you know, and
yeah,
you know, so.
I do everything. Like, so I've ran a 24-hour race around a track, somehow won it, and then like, you know, the next week I'm back on trails. Like I have a girlfriend that likes doing road races, so I end up doing marathons. I'm all over the place. Like, I don't just do trail races, even though even a lot of them, I'm doing everything. I run everything from like a mile race to just like over 100. So I don't discriminate any running event.
Very
think
good.
John
So tell me,
needs to hear about the cut, Art.
yeah, you can come out and run the Cut 112 if you like. That's in Connecticut.
Oh, I know. I've got friends that DNF'd it.
Oh, okay. Now, who?
Everybody knows somebody who DNF'd it.
Like Tim, maybe Tim, or
This is what is his name? I haven't ran with him for a while. I'm so bad. I'm a bad friend. Edit that out.
no, that's okay. That happens to me. You know what? That happens to me. I should be able to probably tell you as well. So, but that happens. It's always bad on this. If you're over 40, you don't need to know. You can you can let it go. So, awesome. So, I wondered if So like you're running a lot of stuff. So yeah, so about the Cut 112 then, right? So interesting.
One race that go up there a little bit further up, I think. I don't know much about New England or geography or anything. I'm bad. But anyway, I've been hearing a lot about Jigger Johnson. It's kind of expensive. But yeah. I think it was like 53-hour cutoff. And like somebody told me, I don't know if they're just joking around, but they're like, it makes Mass Nutton look flat. But I saw some pictures, and that might be true. It looks pretty.
Pretty so rough. I worked in aid station there, and I've been on some of the trails that goes over. And the day that they had, and those conditions, even under the best of circumstances, I don't know. I would put that up against. I'd put that up against just about anything out there.
Yeah.
I mean, like arguably, somebody could say that something's as tough, but like, that day it was raining just buckets. It's the White Mountains. It's, I think that's a run that, like, if you are just willing not to quit and to go, and you can, and you have it, you can get through it. But otherwise it is tough. It's no joke.
It fascinated me seeing the winner get the winner at 30 hours, and just
yeah. Justin, that was Justin Kowski won that, and Justin is he just thrives on that stuff. He has FKTs all over the place. I can't say enough about what a good runner he is, and he's able to tackle that stuff. And towards the end of that, it was, in his words, it was, it was pretty tough, at the end for him, certainly. So,
awesome.
all the climbing and everything. So yeah, that'll be fun to see how that, how that grows over time. It's always hard to tell how difficult a course is, or the relative difficulty of a course, especially when it's when it's hasn't been tried that much, So I always
that
wonder
was
that
a really bad weather year too, right?
It was.
So it'll be faster if it's not pouring the whole time.
We say that. Now, I said that about the first year in 2017 when we did the cut, that it can't be worse. And 2018 was fucking worse. It was just horrible.
That'll happen.
And since then, since I stopped running it, and other people, I just direct it, or not direct it because it's not a race, right, Fred?
Right. Yeah. You're just sort of a facilitator.
Just a witness, but I didn't see shit. It's they've had some better weather years, but it's still a challenge. It's still very, very hard. So we're going to play a little game now, John, if you're up for it. If we have something we like to call 5 questions, but we only ask you one question, but we still call it 5 questions. Because if you could give us a number between 1 and 5, and we'll ask you that question.
Number 3.
Number 3. Wow. Okay. All right.
Everyone has picked 3.
Everyone. So that's good, though. So memorable hallucinations.
So funny you asked that. my first hallucination was this year. I was doing the Wild Oak Trail 100. I'd been up for about 48 hours. I slept in my car. So the way the course is, you go to back to your car every loop. The quote unquote aid station is your car at the main parking area. So when I only got about an hour's sleep, but at my lowest point, I saw Pikachu from like Pokemon.
Of course you did.
Yeah. I looked over really quick. It's usually like if I see something like that, it's from the headlamp. It looks weird for a minute and you're tired. But yeah, I saw like spiky looking Pikachu from like a fallen over tree. It just looked perfect. Like, like the like splinters or whatever. It just looked like Pikachu. And I was like, oh, Pika, just I just kept going like nothing. I swore I also saw Steven Seagal at one point later on in the and then yeah, that was a weird one. I was just very tired and I would have just fell asleep on the trail if I could. But it was pouring down rain on that one too. So I was just like, I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to just, go through this. That race took me 46 and a half hours.
Oh, damn. That's good. That's
did
when you get into
the winter. John, you finished the winter twat?
Just this year. It took me 4
nice. A lot of people have DNF'd that race. A lot of good runners have DNF'd that race.
So did you sleep in the 46 or no?
For an hour. The whole just an hour. So like I timed it out pretty well. The hour worked really, and then during the day they have like the one loopers go out. So I was like, fresh people I can recycle my stories to. This is great. So like that
Absolutely.
helped. Yeah, and then basically the worst loops if you do the Wild Oak Trail 100, to me it's the second and the last one because those are both the night loops. And I think the second's the worst. So I don't know why. I've always DNF'd just finishing the second loop. After the second, I'm usually just like I'm done with this. But yeah, this year I got through it. The third was fine because again people were out there. But then the fourth, you have the adrenaline to finish it.
Yep.
It still sucks, but I feel like it's still better than the second loop. But it is a rough.
Awesome.
I don't know if it's Jigger Johnson hard. I mean, the terrain. There's a lot of runnable sections on the Wild Oak, but there is some rocky sections. But I don't think it's anything like Jigger Johnson, from my understanding.
Yeah. Wow. I guess time will tell. So, John, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. I'm, looking, hopefully people get a chance to get the book and to learn a little bit more about you and kind of hear your stories there. So appreciate you coming out and have a great night.
It's been great. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. Take care. Good to meet you, John.
Glad to have you here. So, hello, Bob. Can you hear us?
Howdy. Yes.
Excellent. All right. So there you are.
Yeah.
Very good. So we welcome now Bob Hearn. Welcome to Cultra.
Hey, thank you.
So glad to have you here. Now, I would like to provide a intro for you, but it would probably take up the rest of our time for tonight. So for
I would
those
like
who
to
don't
point
know,
out that Bob is dressed. He has clothes on. So unlike some of his running photos, he's fully dressed.
okay, that's fair.
Yep.
So if you want the book, no, I guess the photos aren't in the book, but we can tell them that, right? Bait and switch there. So, so Bob, you've, and I'm probably just going to I'm probably just going to understate everything, but you've set world records. You've won Vol State, I guess, a couple times, set the record there, 24-hour team, and just probably a lot of other things that I'm just like, I'm not reading off a list right now, but you've done quite a few things there. So, it's nice to have you.
Thank you. Each one of those is actually a slight exaggeration, but I won't complain.
Okay. I believe in, it's not bad to paddle somebody else's canoe. So that's always allowed. So, so like, I want to ask like some kind of profound questions here to start with. When you think about running in your life, maybe you could kind of like describe what that means to you or what it's, what's the running experience for you?
It's It's changed a few times, and it may be changing again. I didn't start running till I was 38. My wife was always the runner. I still tell people she's the real runner in the family. Um, I got into it. It was all about marathons and going to Boston every year, and then marathon maniacs, running as many marathons as I could. And it was about performance. It was about ego, even though I was never gonna, I broke 3 hours, but I was never gonna be really a good marathoner. And then when it became about ultras, it was still sort of about being the best in a smaller pool, but gradually it became to be more and more about the community as well. And it's to the point now where, like a huge percentage of my Facebook friends are running friends, and I know people everywhere, and um, the social aspect of it is huge. And then when I started doing the really long flat stuff, it became about setting records. But that's still kind of an ego thing. And then when it became about the longer stuff, the multi-days, that's when finally I sort of realized it's not, it's about the experience. I was able to sort of reach these spaces these emotional, spiritual places that I was not able to reach even running, in a 24-hour race. I have to run for multiple days to break through all the surface crap in my brain to what's really there underneath and just experience the joy of being alive and doing and physically engaging with the world and living. And it's really, it sounds really obvious, but it feels just really profound, and it's totally changed my perspective.
Wow. Yeah, it is. It is amazing. How it can strip us down and, give us that insight. I mean, because I think, I don't know, I get really profound with it sometimes because I think Thoreau talked about being in the forest, and he was aware of a whole nother dimension there. In the forest, he connected with the forest in a different way than most humans did, where he naturally knew where to find things that nobody else could find, specimens and different things like that. He believed in different spirits in the woods. And it occurred to me that when I'm out for long enough running, that all of a sudden I'm viewing the world and the forest in a different way, whether it's a hallucination or just a different way of looking at it. And I'm kind of like open to these other things that he claims to have interacted with. So I can't prove that any of this exists, but I can definitely not disprove it either. So it always makes me wonder, as far as like what kind of a connection, when we strip things away, it really does bring us to a different place.
Yeah. I have a very strong perspective now that these issues of, what's the real reality? Do these like spirits of nature really exist, or any number of, fundamental philosophical questions? I'm much more of the strong sense right now that it's not so much a matter about what's right and what's wrong as just there's all these different perspectives and ways to build your internal reality, and they're all, I won't say necessarily right, but they're not all, it's not like one of them is right and the others are wrong. They're just different ways to exist and live and construct your reality of the world. And I've really grown to appreciate that so much more, that there's all these different perspectives out there that can be, useful or vibrant or, experiences to have, rather than, I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, but.
No, not at all. I'm digging it all. So I sometimes feel after these things, and I wondered if, sometimes the emotion, like maybe the emotional, not just even the emotional toll, but the mental toll of these events can be, for me at least, it impacts me a lot, because it's not all as fun as it is in its own way. It's also kind of traumatic too, to go through these things, just even emotionally and mentally. Like, so I wondered, now you've pushed yourself, I would say, definitely harder than I have. I've done a couple hundreds and, some 24-hour races and some 40, run out for some 40 hours or whatever, 45. But I wondered, like, what's it like for you after you do like one of these really hard things? Like how fast do you snap back, or what is your mental state the days after these things?
It totally depends. I remember after the first 6 day that I finished all 6 days, it was, like 6-7 months before my head was really back. I mean, quite a while before my body was back in the game, but longer before my head was back in the game. And then I've had times, last year I ran Heart of the South, 350-mile road race, and then Vol State, 314-mile road race, like 3 weeks later. And in hindsight, that was a mistake. I set myself back sort of mentally for several months after that because I was not really mentally ready for Vol State, but I felt like I was. I waited a week. I went back out and started running, and I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I can't wait to get back out on the road and do these multi-days and run all through the night. Let's go do this again. Every race is different. It's, after I set the Vol State course record, I was in a very strange space because I sort of just really had this very powerful awareness. This is the best race I'm ever going to run. It's all that's like the defining race of my life. And that's past me now. And it's all downhill from here. And that was this very strange sensation. But I don't expect that to feel that again.
Yeah. Like, do you ever, cause like, here's, and this is something that I talk about on the show all the time, is that like, when I ran New York Marathon in 2003, first time ever, I knew that once I finished that marathon, that was going to be it. Like, I was going to get that medal. I was going to have that medal, and it was going to be, everything was going to be okay forever. Like, nobody was going to mess with me. And then, I got the medal, but I didn't quite run the race I wanted. So I did, actually, it's funny, like, from what I've read, like, our stories are very similar in a lot of ways. Like, I started running at 38. I think I'm probably a year or two older than you, but now, I mean, Fred's laughing there because it's like a typical exaggeration on my part. Like, there's many things.
Yeah, kind of.
Except that, like, I've run 112 miles in 24 hours, and I keep that number keeps coming up. I think your number might be 154. Is that?
Yeah.
Or is it 100?
Right. Yeah.
154. Like, that number's repeated itself a couple times for you, I think, and
so pretty much the same thing, right?
It's pretty much the same. It's just like his goes to
like
11.
This close to getting on the national team,
Yeah.
or he's setting age group world records or something.
That's right.
112. Yeah.
I heard about it. I did the Erie Canal Trail, Fred. So
yeah. I like to follow Bob's running in part because I'm sure that people have said this to you 1,000 times, but you're the most cerebral runner when it comes to like the planning and the execution and the way you describe, like, this injury is happening this, and if I can keep going at this pace, I'll get to this distance and stuff. And I find it fascinating, really.
And it's so funny because, I've been aware of that I'm considered this very analytical runner, and that's like my value to the community. And more than that, it's like my value to my, I'm a good runner because I do this and that sort of planning and modeling and so forth. And I've sort of changed. And I mean, that analytical part is still there. But what I realized when I ran Vol State is that it's not the most important thing. And it's standing in the way a lot of times of me just being able to directly engage and be present. Because if my mind is there analyzing, I'm not like living and feeling. And I'm kind of, I'm trying to be much better about being present and not being subject to what my mind tells me. But it's a hard process for me.
I will say that I've seen that metamorphosis to some extent, that you found more joy in sort of letting go a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? You want to be you want to.
Yeah.
I don't know, like you want to enjoy the music, but you don't necessarily want to think too much about how the guitars are put together and what the the electronics and what kind of sound effects. You kind of sometimes just want to dance,
That's a good way to put it. But I felt, like when I set the Ball State first record, I think I had the best of both worlds because I went in specifically with the mindset of being there for the experience itself. But having run it the year before, I also had the knowledge and all these like background process. It's like I had all the analytical part running in my brain, but in the background, in the back seat and not driving. And so I had, this sort of optimally informed, just being present, that was sort of like best of both worlds. If I could only have that in every race, that would be awesome.
Very good. Well, I think, I think that certainly for some races that it seems to really help to have that, to have that plan, to have that planning aspect. I mean, you think about, there's so many, I don't even have to tell you, there's just so many ultra runners out there who are engineers or chemists or just scientists, or elevator salespeople like myself. So that's definitely, it's interesting that's, that kind of stuff definitely helps, and for others, it's weird because I find that I like to wing it, but when I try to do that, it is a shit show. Like as much as I want to do that, I will just forget oh, I forgot to drink.
Right. It's a hard balance to find.
Yeah. And for me, I wrote about it in the book, and not to give away the book here, but, having ADHD, so for me, it's very hard to stay on task. So really the only way I can do it is to super hyper focus on it. And when I do that, that at least, in the onset, it's a lot of energy goes towards it, and it seems like overkill, but it's like either that or like nothing. Like I'm going to just forget, I'm going to just forget everything. So,
okay. I want to talk to Bob Moore. Can we have him on again, Art?
Fred, if you're good, we can. We'll have to ask. We'll have to ask his people first. But
his people, yes, okay.
Bob, I would really love to. I've really enjoyed our conversation tonight. I do have, and I'd love, if you'd like to, I'd love to have you back on the show sometime too.
Anytime.
Excellent, thank you.
I judge a lot of my life by Bob. When I get Wordle in 3, I want to know if Bob got Wordle in
2. Well, I'm always posting on George Sanders' Wordle threads, so that's where you go to find my Wordle results.
Right. Okay.
Excellent. So, Bob, before we go, we have a little game. I wondered if you'd want to play.
Okay.
So we call it 5 questions, but there's only one question. But you get to choose a number. That's why we call it 5 questions. Yeah. You get to choose a number between 1 and 5, and then we will ask you that question.
I see. I'll go with number 4.
Number 4. Very good. Number 4 is very entertaining. It is worst thing I ever ate.
During a race.
Oh, during a race. Worst thing I ever ate during a race. Well,
or it could just be worst thing ever.
I've puked a lot during races, but it's mostly, I mean, it depends on what you mean by ate. I remember one time at Desert Solstice, it was a 24-hour race that about 16 hours in, I was still on pace, but I suddenly started mentally losing it, and I just really needed to wake up and get some energy. I thought, I really need some sugar. So I took this gel that I don't even remember what the flavor was, but I just immediately puked and didn't wake up and sort of fell apart. Sorry, I don't have any really, I'm sure there's something really horrible that I've actually eaten, but whatever it is not coming to mind.
Okay.
That was probably a bio-flavored gel. That was why it was not the right thing. Right?
It wasn't like a chocolate bugle or anything, though. So
No.
Okay. Well, that'll work. And Bob, thank you very much. very glad that we could, make a connection tonight. And I will definitely reach out and see if we can get together soon. So
awesome.
Excellent.
All right, cheers.
So thank you very much.
Good luck in France.
See you.
Yeah, thanks. Who's up? Who's up next? Is it?
I think we have
Stefanie
Bernosky.
Yeah, Steph.
You can hang out if you want, but
I'll just say hi to Steph, and then I have to go.
That would be great. Hey, Stefanie, can you hear us?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So now she's not on mute.
Yeah, I'm not on mute for some reason. Okay, there we go. Now I can show my video. So there we
go.
Excellent.
Hey.
Hey.
All right, I'm going to sign off. Bye-bye.
See you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
So, Stefanie, welcome to Cultra.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So how's it going today?
Oh, not too bad. A little tired from my races this past weekend and realized that I'm probably pushing myself a little hard right now, but
wow, an ultra runner who pushes herself hard. What is that?
And Amy can attest that I'm on the up and up right now. So it's that delicate balance of, how far you take it until you break.
Steph has been killing it. I'm going to paddle Steph's canoe for just a minute. So just a couple months, maybe not even a couple months ago, a month ago, she sub 20'd her 100-mile at a jackpot. She then went on to run a fast marathon in Tokyo. Then just a couple days ago at the Badger Ultras, she ran 100K. And just a couple hours later, the next day, ran a fast 15K on the same trails. So she has reason to be tired. She's really killing it. And this is all in preparation for Western States.
Yep.
Excellent. Oh my gosh, that sounds like quite a schedule. And are you okay right now, or you?
Oh yeah, no. I am absolutely fine.
Good.
I'm great.
Excellent. And where do you live, Stefanie?
I live in Seattle.
Oh, okay, cool. Very good. I'm on my way to Portland in a couple months, so
nice.
We'll be neighbors. So,
what are you moving or?
No. I have. I'm going to do the Cascade Lakes relay there.
Okay.
So they have from Diamond Lake to Bend. So
awesome.
So should be lots of fun. So could you? Yeah. So that sounds like a bunch of. Now, how long have you been running?
I did my first 5K in 2009, and my first ultra in 2011.
Okay, all right. And did you start out on the roads, or do you prefer? Or you did Tokyo, so you're still on the roads, but
I do. I do both. I have some considerations that make me do both roads and trail. I love trail. Trail is my home. However, I also have I've been battling off and on issues with my eyes and my vision. And sometimes it's like vision acuity issues can get in the way of me fully embracing the trails. And, I like to balance it with the roads just to keep myself a little safe.
Yeah. I mean, vision's a key thing for the trails. No doubt you have to be able to see. Have you ever had a trail run where, sometimes as you get later in a race, things get tougher with vision. Lots of people have we've all
the corneal edema.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
No, I haven't had the actual things like what Courtney DeWalter has said, I ran the last 3 miles blind because my corneas were swollen. But I have had issues where before I had a cataract taken out and a lens replaced, I couldn't go overnight in an ultra without having everybody's headlamps completely blind me.
Oh yeah. Huh.
And that's what gets me sometimes. It's just the absolute blinding of the headlamps and from everybody wanting to go brighter.
Yes.
So
kids these days, right? I mean,
I know.
So have you ever tried any lenses for that? Like I know sometimes like maybe a yellow lens or anything like that. I've tried that.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't. I've heard. I only after I realized that my issues were stemming from the cataract did I actually read into that. And by that point, it had matured far enough that they're like, yeah, you should get that dealt with.
Gotcha. Yeah. Oh boy. Huh. So, I mean, now we're not going to talk so much about the actual DNF that you wrote about in the book, but was that a newer thing for you, the DNF that you wrote about, or no?
Was it a newer?
I mean, was it like something that had happened before? Like, do you typically have issues?
This one was a different type of DNF. This was one where usually my DNF, and no, I don't normally go out and DNF, but I categorize DNF in like a couple different categories. The category of I gave up on myself and my head just wasn't in the game type DNF, because that's the type that you're like, oh man, I really could have, but I came up with those excuses. And then there's the DNF where it's like my head was there. I really wanted this race. I really needed this race, and it was taken away from me. Yeah. And that's what this DNF was, in that category of, oh, I had just basically been given 60 days to find a new job at my employer, or else I was going to get laid off.
Oh,
and I needed that time to sort of think about and process everything. And less than an hour in, I broke both bones of my ankle.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Like just one bad footfall.
You got to watch what you ask for, right?
Yeah. So then I had a lot of time to think about it.
Yes. Yeah.
By not running, but that it was the first time I'd actually had one where my physical body just didn't perform.
Do you ever
This
feel
is
like
actually a rare one, Steph, as among the ones, because usually it's people get beaten down and then get demoralized and then stop. And you were like, I'm in the first loop of the what are there 5 loops at Rocky, and I'm in loop 1 and I snapped my ankle, so
it was such a bummer, especially because it was my hometown race and I was with my friends and just having a good time.
Yeah, it can be a I mean there's so many different ways that that stuff can happen, right? I mean, sometimes it's about I mean, I always wonder, like, so this was like a question that I wanted to put to somebody is, aside from the ankles, have you ever had that situation where, because lots of times we go into these difficult events and ideally on some level, at least, we're saying, I don't even know if this is really possible. I don't really know if I can even actually do this. And I wondered if you had ever had it happen where you just couldn't do it, like couldn't do it, like couldn't reach the goal, do it? No, not so much the goal, because all of us have, I mean, I assume that all of us have tried for a goal and not made the goal, right? Yeah. I mean, we all try to, whatever it is, Olympic trials or gold medal, right, Fred? Or whatever that
qualifier.
is. Boston qualifier. Yeah. You're gonna, things are gonna happen, and it's not always gonna turn out the way you want. But like, I always picture ultra running kind of in like lots of times it's not just about, and maybe our running is different, that yours is more about trying to win it or to place or to get so like to finish, right? I mean, that's like at least an expectation that we have where all of a sudden you get, where you're just like, it's just like done. I'm like, I'm out of gas and I can't really move now, or I'm cramping up and I'm just not able to go.
Yeah, the main ones I've had that could come close to that were there was one race that I DNF'd that I felt really confident about, and I thought that I had all the elements in place and the grit to be able to do it. But just everything just started piling up to show me that it wasn't going to happen that day.
Yeah.
And that was at Bighorn. I think would have been 2019. I think there was a mile and a half leading to the turnaround at Jaws. Steep snow that whenever you whenever you got a crusty part that wasn't competent, you would go
post hole.
You would post hole, but thigh deep into a meltwater stream.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
So there was meltwater. It was essentially like a glacier. There was meltwater underneath, and you were post holing.
Dangerous. Oh my gosh.
And it was really gnarly. I had already been dealing with a neuroma in my foot. I thought I had plenty of time on the cutoff. I'm like, I really want to do this. And then my headlamp gave out.
Oh yeah.
Now, thankfully, it was a full moon.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was clear out, but everything was just kind of lighting up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have enough time at the turnaround to make it under the cutoff, but I still didn't have a stupid mistake that I shouldn't have made because I wasn't a rookie at the time. Didn't have spare batteries in my pack.
So have you done that since then, right? That's the big question.
No, I have not. And
okay,
actually,
so right.
And you know what else? Somebody taught, because actually what was bugging me is it was a fully charged battery when I left Seattle. And somebody told me after the race, and this is the best bit of advice that helped me prevent this from ever happening to me again, because my battery shouldn't have died. Flip the battery before I put it in my luggage. So if it accidentally turns on, it doesn't drain your battery.
Yeah. Yep. That's more than, you know what? I've been caught by, I more or less got caught by a bad headlamp, and just early on in my running, I just didn't know what I was doing, and I figured it was a rail trail, and I figured that, I didn't even really need much of a lamp at all anyway.
Yeah.
And so I had to use a handheld, and handhelds are great if you're doing 10 miles or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
If you run too long with the handheld, for me, I just got nauseous and couldn't deal with it. So,
yeah.
So unfortunately we're like burning through time here.
Yes, we are, aren't we?
So I wondered if you'd play a little game with us here. So, we have something that's called 5 questions, but there's one question that we're going to ask you. So what we do is we have people pick a number from 1 to 5, and then that we'll ask you that question.
Okay. 4.
4. Okay. Number 4. That's probably, I think that's almost our, what do you think, Fred? Is that tied for first place or close second?
3 might, 4 is a close second. Nobody has picked 1 or 2 yet. That's funny. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
So 4 is worst thing I ever ate during a race.
Okay. There's a little story behind this one. So my second 100-miler ever was Umstead. I was planning on racing Umstead really. My first 100-miler, I did a sub 24. I'm like, okay, let me beat that time. So I went the first 100K without any solid calories. And I did my master's degree at University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, which is right near the Umstead course. So I asked my family who was crewing me, I'm like, the one thing that I would love at, a close to midnight is a burrito from Cosmic Cantina.
Oh, yeah.
Cosmic Cantina was my favorite burrito place in the area. And I'm like, all I want is a burrito. I eat half of that burrito, and that was the worst thing I ever ate.
Oh my God.
Not because of the taste or anything, but because of the havoc it wreaked on my lower GI tract for the next 20 miles. 20 miles. Wow. I had to regroup after that next loop. So it was a 12.5-mile loop. So by about 6 miles into that loop, I was feeling it bad. Every quarter mile I had to stop on the back half of that loop, and I had to spend 90 minutes in the aid station at 88.5 just to get my stomach back into some kind of serviceable order.
Nice. What year was that, Steph?
That would have been 2014.
Okay, I was there. I don't remember seeing you like having great gastric distress, but there are 250 people.
Yeah. Bob met me there.
Okay.
Hertz.
Yep.
Yeah. That was the worst. Like, I still love the burritos, but maybe not on a stomach that has not had any solid food and has been running for, half a day.
It's like my sloppy Joe at Javelina. No bueno.
What was the weather like that year, Steph, 2014?
Nothing like super notable.
Nothing special. Yeah.
No.
Because it's been all over the place, Yeah,
I mean, it was pretty warm. I was wearing a singlet, but also at that point in time, I was still living in Houston, and anything was cooler than Houston.
Right. I've done it 13 times, and it's been between like as hot as 80 degrees and as cold as the bridge is freezing at night. So
yeah, it wasn't cold. I can recall that clearly, as it wasn't cold. I should probably go back to it at some point and redeem myself, but it's probably lower on my list right now. Probably it'll be whenever I want to go back to Chapel Hill again.
Yeah, there you go. To visit the place, right?
Yeah.
Do a little segue and let you know that Stefanie pulled me to my fastest marathon in the past year and a half a couple weeks ago. So on the back of the book, I mentioned that I am a member in good standing of the Bad Influence Running Club. Stefanie is also a member in good standing, and basically it's a group of us who do a lot of these smaller marathons and 50Ks pretty much every weekend, sometimes doubles back to back. We have a 12-hour on Saturday. So I've been doing those, and my marathon times, as I've been doing the longer ultra stuff, have been getting slower and slower. So I've been really working on trying to improve my speed. And so when I showed up at one of these marathons, and I was expecting to run with some other friends, and they weren't able to make it. And so I saw Steph and one of our other local runners, Scott, who are really fast. And the thing is, I didn't know the trail. So I joined in with Steph and Scott and just tried to stay with them. And I was able to stay with them for most of the run and cut 20 minutes off my marathon time.
Nice.
So I see we have Bill Schultz in the waiting room while we're waiting for Art to reboot. Steph, any closing thoughts before we let Bill in?
Nope, not really.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll
nice to meet you,
see you soon in Seattle. All right. And we're letting Bill Schultz in. And while we're doing that, what's going on with you, Fred? You have a couple of stories in the book.
Yeah, I've DNF'd a few times. Those aren't even my most disappointing DNF. The one at Vermont was my most disappointing.
Yeah. No, I don't think mine are the most disappointing either. All right. Well, I'm just letting Bill know that he needs to click on the microphone on the bottom of the screen while we're waiting for Bill to unmute. What's going on with you, Fred? You know, I'm headed out to Connecticut to run some East Coast races.
Yeah, it'll be great to see you at Waramaug. That'll be nice. That's a classic. You know, it's 50 years since they started that race. It started in 74. So that's started with like all the last generation or 2 generations ago really of ultra runners before it was a thing. By far it was the first ultra in Connecticut. When I started running ultras, it was the first ultra in Connecticut. The only ultra in Connecticut. And it'll be nice to see you out there. But before that, I'm going down to Umstead next week.
Oh, so, you're headed down to Umstead. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like Bill was having some technical difficulties. So in the meantime, I let in.
Here's Vinny.
Yeah.
What's going on, Vinny?
Not too much, man. How you doing?
Good.
Awesome. Cool.
So I read your DNF story, and we're not supposed to be talking about him on this thing because we want people to read the book. But
yeah.
You're the RD of the race that you DNF'd, right? Now?
Yeah, now we are. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. It's kind of a big part of it. There's a lot of that for us. Like, we've talked, but like that's the whole thing where like we ultra running and running in general changed my life. It's how we met. My wife and I met, and our kids do it, and we have all the stuff that goes around it. And that race was the first ultra that I had gotten into because it was like, I don't know, back however many years ago where you couldn't find 100 every weekend or whatever it was. Right. So it was one, and there was like just a thing that said you had to run a 50 first. I was like, I'll try that. And I got my ass handed to me.
Well, that's pretty challenging 50 to jump into, right?
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Bill, it looks like you're unmuted. Can you hear us, Bill?
Yes, I can.
Yes, you can. All right. So we just let Vinny into the room. We're going to be chatting with Vinny, and then after that, we'll get to Bill Schultz as Art is coming back on. But I'm going to go ahead and ask Vinny to tell us a little bit about himself as a runner. So Vinny, how long have you been running, and tell us a little bit about your history?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. It's I think pretty typical. I did one of those. I ran in high school. I stopped just after high school. Went through a life-changing event when I got divorced, and I started running again just to get that stuff back. Training for a marathon. Met my wife Nicole, and then we got into running together. We got into ultra running, and now we put on a bunch of races as well.
Okay, great.
They're an RD power couple, Nicole and Vinny. Yeah.
What's your favorite race? Do you have one?
Of mine or that we put on?
That you've run.
That I've run. It would have to be. It's both now. So it's one that we do put on, but it's Virgil Crest.
Okay.
But we took it over from. It's the one that the story is about. But
right.
We years later took it over from the RD.
Okay, great. And what would you say your favorite distance is?
Honestly, it's 100. I really, really, really like 100. I think, it's, for me personally, I'm not religious. I'm not, I don't have a lot of things that I do to be with myself. And for me, it's the length of it, right? Like at best, I'm going to be 22 hours out there, and I might be, 32 hours out there. So it's a time to be with me and just do that stuff.
Okay,
you and Jim have been traveling to some hundreds, right?
Yeah. Well, he's doing his whole collecting thing, so been going out with him and trying to just get some time on feet and doing the shorter distances.
Yeah, Jim Lampman is about to. Within a year or two, he's going to hit 100s, right?
I think so. Yeah, he's got it all down. He's not very I don't want to say like he's not public about it, but he's not like, he doesn't like advertise it. He doesn't go into it like there are other people who are on there. and who are out there and like they'll post about it. And not that that's bad or good, but he's just not one of those to be like, oh, I'm at this number now. So I don't even know what it is. Anytime I ask him, he's sort of cryptic with it.
Yeah, I mentioned it on the podcast one time, and he happened to listen to it, and he was like, "Yeah, I have. I've done a lot of them, But, yeah,
yeah,
so,
he has.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing them for a while now,
and he's a young man too. He's gonna, he'll be like 42 and he'll have 100 or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think he's in line to be, if not the one of the youngest on that list.
Yeah.
No.
So we also just had Bill Schultz join us. And before we get to the game show section of the podcast, let's ask Bill to tell us a little bit about his running background. I'll hand it off to you, Bill.
Well, started running in 70s as a 200-pounder. My younger brother had run a marathon that I helped crew for, and suddenly I found myself at 200 pounds around 1978. My mom said, "You're 26. It's time to go run a marathon. It's 26 miles." So with that, I figured Mother's Day would be a good day and found Yonkers, New York. Didn't know it was not as flat as I thought it might be, as my brother's Jersey race was, but it wasn't flat. Got me to Boston. Got me to eventually I got to Boston in 80. Couple failure there led to my DNF story, and to recover, I got into ultras. I was conned into running an ultra by Dick Brennan.
Isn't that how it always happens? You get conned into it.
It was.
Like, this will be fun.
It was pad the field. There was a field of runners, and they needed to add runners. So it was the first indoor in the United States, 1982. So that led to knowing Dan Brennan and Ed Dodd. That led me into 6-day running, and 6-day was where I found my relative success. So although I had pretty decent marathon time, I really
249. Is that your best, or is that
243?
240. Okay.
Those 6 minutes are worth a lot.
Well, yeah. I was very disappointed because I really wanted the 6-minute mile, 237, and the 243. I tried. I think 3 years in a row, and I improved by like 30 seconds, and said, "To hell with this. I might as well run these ultra things," and got involved in ultras and 6-day running. Met Jim Shapiro and this kid named Gary something, who changed his name a couple times.
Would that be Gary Cantrell?
That would be Gary Cantrell. Met him in 84. I met him before that at the indoor races, but meeting Shapiro led to meeting Richie Innamorato, who put on the bus races in New York, in New England area. And then 1990, I did my Transcon. So that's pretty much.
I was told that you were Gary Cantrell's grandfather, Bill. Is there any truth?
Not his grandfather, just Pops. He calls me
Pops. Okay.
I call him son. So yeah, he's been known to use that, and more than one person has looked at me and said, "How old are you?" Yeah, that's Gary. Yeah. So, but that's pretty much my running background. I had my most success at 6-day, and then after the Transcon, believe it or not, back then, a lot of people, they retired when they turned 40.
That's when a lot of people start ultra running these days.
Things have changed a little bit. So, but that's pretty much. I've been a race director since 1984, with the Dawn to Dusk races, Been happy doing that. Been helping out with Mike Melton timing some races. I also will be up at Lake Warm. I hope to be up at Lake Waramaug next month.
Ooh,
Excellent.
we were just talking about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hope to be. Well, I plan on being there. So, been there a couple times.
Excellent.
Ran it back in the day.
Hey, guys, sorry
Bill and
about
I
my.
actually ran a loop of it. What was that? 3 years ago? 4 years ago? I don't know. I can't remember. 4 years ago, probably. Right? You and I ran a loop of it. No, 5 years ago, maybe 5 years ago.
I don't know how much running there was. Maybe.
Okay. I was trying to give us the benefit of the doubt. You know?
My running speed has dropped considerably. I have neuropathy in both legs, so it hasn't been as exciting as I would have liked, but I'm still getting my miles.
Excellent. Hey, guys, it's very nice to meet you. I apologize. My computer locked up and decided to update and do all this other stuff. And then it ordered pizza. And then next thing you know, I don't know, it started and my phone wasn't working either. So this is great to have you guys here tonight. So
yeah, to catch you up, Art. So we have gotten some introductions and heard a little bit about Vinny and Bill's background. We haven't gotten to the game show portion yet of the podcast.
Gotcha.
And of course, these guys are both high level RDs,
race directors.
Okay,
yeah,
so
both are race directors of well-known races.
Yeah, so let's talk about before we get into the game show, because that's all fun and stuff like that. I want to hear more about the races and stuff like that. So Bill, I know you mentioned Dawn to Dusk.
Yep.
Maybe you could just because there's people who may be listening that may not be up on all the details, or people who may know the details, but maybe they just kind of don't have them all straight and kind of need to be kind of like a refresher course on it. So if you could maybe just tell everybody about Dawn to Dusk and
I believe it's Dawn to Dusk to Dawn, or
D3, yeah. Dawn to Dusk to Dawn. That third D is important.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to seem like I didn't know what I was talking about. So. But now I did.
It's kind of a real quick history. The race was I wanted a training run back in 1984 for my first 6-day race. So I talked to my running club. And I said, look, we can put on a half of it. We'll put on a 12-hour event. We'll call it, 12 hours. How about Dawn to Dusk? That's where the Dawn to Dusk came from. Eventually, we went to 24 hours, and it became Dawn to Dusk to Dawn. And that became D3, which I must admit at the time, Josh Irvin came up with the name, the D3. I never liked it, D3.
Okay.
And they call it... They call it 3D. But until you people started running in the woods in the 90s, things went smooth. It died out, and we finally dropped the race in the early 2000s and brought it back in 2014 when, for the most part, 24-hour running became much more prevalent, and I got involved with the U.S. national 24-hour team. Mike Dobies and Tracy Outlaw. In 2017, we went to Belfast. In 2019, since it's every 2 years, we went to Albi, France. 2018, Mike Melton and I were fortunate enough to time the European 24-hour the 24-hour championships, European. And 2021, we were scheduled it was supposed to go back to Timisoara. That's where the 2018 was. The World Championships were supposed to be there in 2021. The race was canceled. Melton and I were supposed to time it. That was a disappointment. And this past December, the 24-hour national or IAU was in Taipei. And Tracy Outlaw, Mike Dobies, and I went to Taipei and worked with them there.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. So, Vinny, tell us about your races. How you doing?
So, my wife and I put on, it's like 5 or 7 races now. We've taken over a few, but the ones that we've taken over were sort of like the RDs were walking away, but they felt good still. So like Beast of Burden is one of them that we took over, and we had talked to a couple people, and they said that it was just, they felt that it was still a community. It was still a fun event, but the RDs were just getting out of it, and they didn't feel vested in it anymore. And that's been a fun learning experience for us. And, because like the races are still fun, but those are elements that, I never wanted to run that winter race. Like a few years ago, it was -11 overnight. Like that's bananas.
Yeah.
That was my second 100 and my first.
Yeah.
So summer was my first and winter was my second.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. I actually, Vinny, it's a little known fact, and I don't usually talk about this, but you kind of brought it up.
Oh my God. Here we go.
There is the Erie Canal Trail there. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I actually did a self-contained bike trip down the Erie Canal once. Erie Canal Trail once. Very
He doesn't ever talk about it.
Lots of fun. Yeah. You can't make me talk about it. I don't really want to talk about it, but it was lots of fun. So
I bet
419 miles because we went to Niagara Falls too. But anyway, I just had to. There's fans that would be upset if I didn't take that opportunity to bring that in. It's like talking about Maine without mentioning alligators. You gotta bring it in, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Beast of Burden, definitely. Cool. And what other ones you got?
Tesla Hertz, come on.
Yeah, and then we got Tesla Hertz. So Tesla Hertz is how my wife and I kind of started. It's become a really cool race. Nicole and I, when we got into it, there weren't a lot of races around. There were no ultras beyond like a 50K on Long Island. So outside of like Richie's races and bus and all that stuff, there were those that were timed, and there were some of those. But then the only other thing was another race club down there called Glurk that they put on a 50K and a 6 hour, and that was really it. So we didn't want to drive. And I happened to talk to somebody who ends up being the president of the trail system down there. And he's like, hey, I have the perfect 10-mile loop for you. Come out for a run with me. And we set it up and we're like, this is awesome. And what's absolutely rewarding about that race to myself and Nicole is that a couple years ago, it hit that it's become like, if we wrote a list of everything that we wanted a race to be, when in terms of like inclusivity and people supporting each other and like just the whole like vibe of everything, it was that 2 years ago. And that's like to a T. And people were saying things to us that were almost as if they had read that list. And it felt awesome. And it was really, really cool to see that. And, we don't reach out for sponsors. We did like no promotion on the race. We really just kind of let it do its own thing. And you can really tell that now.
Excellent. I've heard nothing but good from, Thaddeus Nelson and a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
Fred Murolo.
Yeah. Some guy named Fred. Yeah. I finished it twice.
Didn't Reagan do that too? Am I wrong with that? Or was it Shan Riggs?
Becky Taste Reagan, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff. Wow.
Yeah. And that's, and now we have a 150 miler too. So it's a quite an event.
All right.
54 hours.
And if you're really slow at 100, you can finish the 100 because the 150 miler runners are still out there.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did from the very beginning was that no matter what distance you are running, you have until the final cutoff. So if you were running the 50K, you had until Sunday at noon. So a lot of people came out and ran 50K and 50 mile. And then when we added the 150, we were like, well, it's the same rules, right? So let people just do whatever they want. And what we noticed is that there's a lot of people, some of them can still run, but not as fast. And they enjoy that. And it's nice to have that. And that I think we kind of knew would happen. But the other group of people that I didn't realize would happen are the people who are scared of cutoffs. That the people who are getting into the race, the people who maybe don't know that they can complete it and don't want to do it, the fact that we give them so much extra time and 2 spots to literally throw half of your house if you wanted to, and then they can just do loops, that it's a huge piece for them, and we love seeing that.
That's awesome. And I think there's such a place for that in the sport where like you said, for any number of reasons, there's people who just have, who have had, physical changes in their lives where maybe they've gotten injured or, none of us are getting any younger, right? So, we each like,
or they got COVID, they just can't run as fast anymore. And, they need
or straight
hours or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a straight. That was,
or a straight.
The COVID was great. Straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I got to tell a quick Vinny story. I went to run the Tesla Hertz in, I think it was 2015, and I didn't really know like the logistics of the race. But you arrive at this little parking area, and then you have to drag your stuff like it seemed like a mile, but it was really like a couple hundred yards into the woods to like where the start finish area is. Yeah. And I had brought too much stuff, and there was a wagon there, and so I started like somebody had left because some people left stuff that you could use to like drag your stuff, and I started dragging the wagon, and the wheels fell off. Okay, so my stuff is on the ground like halfway between the parking area and the start finish, and it's time for the race to start. It was already like probably 5 minutes after the race started. So I just ran to the start, and I said to Vinny, I'm sorry, I'm late, but my stuff is on the ground, like halfway back to the parking area, and I'm just going to go run and I'll get it later. And so I finished the first loop, and he had gotten it for me, and it was all at the start finish. So thank you, Vinny. That was really nice.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
that's service there, right? That's graduate level service.
That was graduate level, and right? I needed every minute too. If I had taken that time, I wouldn't have finished, because I finished in like 29:30 or something, and of the 30 hours. So
very good, huh? That is excellent. So, do you guys want to play a game?
Bill Schultz would have done that for me. I just want.
I would have in the dome.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
But truly at D3, like if you've never done a track ultra, there's something cool about removing all. Well, I mean, the dome would do it even more, but the track ultra just removes all of the, like, there's a route, there's a rock, there's a hill, there's anything. Like, how many miles can you do in 24 hours if you're on a flat track?
That's cruel.
There's
cool. Like no uphills to walk, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's cool.
You have to make up your own uphills. But Bill is also your co-RD now, right? Of the dome, Bill?
Yes, 6 days in the dome in June. Yep.
Nice.
This year we're having 10 days. Which
what?
I love it. 6 days at the dome for 10 days.
Yeah. So what's the temperature in there? It's like 52 or something. Is that?
Now, see, you're thinking D3. It's at the dome. It's a steady 55 degrees, 38%. And Amy, no rain and no wind.
Yeah, notably, the D3 is known for its rain.
Yeah, you had a rain.
Has it ever not rained?
A freaking monsoon year. Like Bill was like, oh, yeah, I can let you in because I've had a few cancellations. And I get there, and it's like the worst weather ever. I was like,
14 hours of rain sideways.
Yeah. Well, Vinny can get the first round. So, Vinny, we're going to play a game that we like to call 5 questions. So, the first, but there's actually a bonus question, which I'll ask you first. How many questions do you think there are? That's not fair, right?
It's a trick. That's a trick question.
Don't say 5. Just spoil alert.
Not 5.
Not 5.
Not 5. Correct. You're right. Good. Congratulations. So here's the deal: is that there's 5 questions, and so if you pick a number between 1 and 5, we will give you one of those questions.
Okay.
So if you would like to select a number, I will read the question to you.
I'll do 4.
4. Okay.
They're tied. 3 and 4 are tied.
3 and 4 are tied. They're like the popular ones here. So
yes. Yep.
4 is worst thing I ever ate.
During a race.
During a race.
During a race. Sorry.
I mean, I think it would have to just be a gel like that. I can't think of anything that I've eaten that no, I do. Yes. So 2 years ago, at Oil Creek, I love if somewhere at night, like after dinner time, I love to get just like a bacon cheeseburger while I'm running 100. If that's possible, it's the greatest thing ever, or just a cheeseburger. And I was running in Oil Creek, ran Oil Creek, and I asked the buddy to go get me something, and he said the only thing around was Burger King. And it was a Burger King with just all the onions on the bottom and everything. And the next 10 or 12 miles were absolutely horrific. Every time I burped or bounced, I felt like I was puking. It was just absolutely awful.
Like the Baconator Jr.?
I wish it was that, man. It was absolutely, he was being helpful, and it was cold, and I was like, I'm not going to eat this. And I did anyway, like a dumbass. And I paid for it.
It sounds like it was the Onionator, or not the Baconator.
Yeah,
it could be. That used to be my go to run Boston Marathon and then stop off at Burger King and get a Baconator or a Baconator Jr. So, and now I'm a lazy vegan, so I don't touch that stuff. So, excellent. So, Bill, would you like to select a number between 1 and 5, and we will give you the corresponding question?
I'll try and go with 2.
2. I love it. Okay. Well, this is great. 2. That's brave.
I'm sorry. Let me change.
No, that's good.
Did you ever have a code brown during a race?
A code brown.
Yes.
I can only guess at what a code brown is. So
you've guessed right, sir. Way to go. Yeah.
Since most of my better races were on tracks, it was not that hard. So pretty much just next lap, there's got to be a porta-john around someplace.
Okay.
So wait a minute, you never had a Greta Weitz moment? You never went full Greta Weitz?
No, I did have to jump off of Boston Marathon course one time, but that in itself.
Okay.
All right.
But that's about it.
Very good. Okay.
And of course, with the rain at D3, it's a little easier to do some things.
Oh, that's true. Nobody would know, right? I think people go and hide in the porta-johns at D3 when it's raining, probably, right? Ray K probably slept in the porta-john for a while.
I lost my my marathon PR to a porta potty stop when I was at CIM. I finished 50 seconds longer than my PR for the marathon, and I timed it. I had been in the porta potty for 1 minute and 15 seconds. Had it not been for that stop, I would have PR'd.
Greta Weitz wouldn't have stopped.
She wouldn't. And I know other people who wouldn't have either, but you know what? The PR wasn't worth that to me.
Wasn't worth it? Yeah, all right. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. The PPR.
It's not like you were winning the New York Marathon, which is what she was doing.
It was nothing like I was winning the New York Marathon.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like I was qualifying for Boston.
Okay. All right.
Very good. I am really excited for for the book, and encourage everybody to go out there and get it. Anybody, you guys have any, as we like to say on the show, any closing arguments?
I think we have one more contributor jumping on in a couple minutes.
I am
signed up for 9:30.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I can text and see if he's there. If not, we might have
I can check.
arguments.
I can check I can check that too. I'm sorry. I'm just a little bit out of sorts here since I did the reboot here.
Since you got kicked off of your own show?
I kicked myself off my whole computer just locked up. I couldn't even get it to restart. That was so weird.
Okay, I have to say I've had a great time tonight because I'm seeing like people like friends. It's nice. Good to see you, Vin and Bill.
Here, man.
That's nice. Yeah. I might have to get back out to Tesla though, Vin. If my legs were not good last fall, but I'm feeling better, so maybe I'll take another crack at it.
Yeah.
I have to say, like the 9th and 10th. Well, you know what, Mike, how bad my back was at the end of that, but it's like the 9th and 10 loops going down that hill.
Yeah.
I felt like I was like going down Everest or something. You know, it got hard.
Yeah. And the footing is terrible on it.
It's
like it is just absolutely. It's like a wash. So it's like a wash with big rocks and then some small ones. So you can't. No matter what you do with your foot, it's not doing what you wanted it to do.
Yeah.
So but you just kind of just.
And you have these visions of yourself just rolling down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Taking a misstep and rolling down the hill.
Yep. Wow. Yeah,
man. So Bill, how what's been the most out of all your races? What's been the most exciting race that you've directed?
Direction wise, 2019 at D3, we had 3 guys go over 150 miles, so that was pretty impressive. 2016, Pam Smith ran a 14:09:100.
Ooh.
At the time, she was the 100-mile women's was 13:45 in the U.S. and she was on it to break it through 92 miles, but slid off and ended up with a 14:09. She was the only woman in the U.S. who was qualified for the 100K national team and the 24-hour national team in the same race.
Wow!
So I mean, you've got fast enough at 100K to get a qualifier, and then go deep enough. She went 142 plus miles at D3. So, and in 2022, Fred, if you'll remember at D3 with that rain, Melissa Tanner ran a 3:28 50K.
Yeah, she flew around that course. Yeah.
In a storm. So, I mean, they were pretty impressive.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that sounds it. Now,
and 2022 had the honor of having me there running 69 miles in 24 hours.
Yep. There you go. Enough to discourage you enough to come back. So
yeah, I'm coming back. I'm coming back.
Race-wise, my 1989 Weston 6-day was a good one, but the one that I remember the most was my Transcon run in 1990. That's the one that hits home the most for me.
And if you see pictures of it, Bill was wearing some short shorts in that Transcon.
Usually mentioned when those shots.
Wow, yeah, that's so tell us about the Transcon. Like, what was the highlight of, if there was a if there was a highlight of that, what was what would you say that would be?
Took a year planning. Everything went better than I had hoped. My goal was today, a lot of people walk it. I never considered once that I was walking it. For most of the time, I would bang out 10-minute miles. I'd get my 30 plus, call it a day. Biggest highlight was hitting the ocean, the Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time on I-40 through old Route 66. So
okay.
That was truly a highlight. But again, talking with the people then, talking with Stu Middleman, Don Choi, names that not many people know, but they were the 6-day runners at the time. Park Barner, most of those guys stopped running when they got to around 40 years of age.
Mm.
So for me, my Transcon, I finished at 38. So I was looking a little bit at that. I'm interested to see what Camille's going to do since she just had her big 6-day run.
Yeah.
I think her recovery from that might be a little surprising. I think Amy might smile on that.
She's talking about it's some difficult recovery. We know that 6 days takes longer than 24 hours for sure.
That is true.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. It's strange though, because some people the races can really do a number on people, right? And you never know. And I found that like the more I do, even though like I think I hurt more after my everyday runs, but I think that my bigger races, they still hurt a lot, but they don't. I just remember running my first marathon. I think it took me out for a whole week. So. But after a while, I got much more used to it. So
speed hurts.
Yes, that's the truth. That's the truth. So, all right. Well, I'm glad that you guys could join us tonight. That was interesting hearing about different races that you got going, and I think it's amazing to find out more about all the other people in this book. So that's I don't know, that's really cool. So nice to meet you all, and hope to see you at one of your races sometime. So
thanks for having
me. Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
See you guys later.
Yep.
See you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Hope to see you soon.
All right. And now, Jason, I'm going to butcher your last name.
Oops. That's okay.
You
that's
can
what
hear
you
us
do,
okay?
isn't it, Art?
What's that?
That's sort of a theme, an ongoing theme of the show.
It is. Yeah. I'd be calling him like Jason Rashford, like somebody who's allergic to paint or something. I don't know. No.
I'm allergic to running.
we do that with all of our Patreons. We just I stopped trying to actually accurately pronounce the names in the beginning, so we just kind of leaned into it, and now many people have gotten their nicknames from our show. So
that's fine.
So welcome to Cultra.
Thank you very much for having me. That I appreciate it. This is awesome.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you calling from? And
I'm live in Kennewick, Washington. I'm on the dry side of Washington State, which nobody knows that there's a dry side. When you say Washington State, everybody thinks of green trees and rain and nice cool temperatures. But there's an eastern half of the state that's very, very dry.
By Spokane and stuff, or?
Yeah, exactly. I grew up in Spokane, and now I live about 100 miles away to the south.
Oh, nice.
And and it gets very dry and very hot here.
Gotcha.
And and so I lived here for about 20 some years, and got into running in my mid 30s when I gave up road cycling because I almost got hit by a car several days in a row, and I had new babies at home and a mortgage, and so I decided to hang up the bike and go back to running. I was a runner in high school, and so I picked it back up, and I've been doing it now for about 20 years. Very
cool. Wow, that's great. Now, had you, as far as like ultras and stuff, how did you, what's your favorite kind of ultra run?
My favorite, it's a toss up. I love the 50-mile trail distance. I absolutely love it. You can get it done in a day, and you can go sleep. You can go sleep in a real bed.
Yes.
And go out, have a beer and some pizza and go crash and sleep, and you feel like you've done something, badass. Yeah. Or maybe even like 100K,
Yeah. Our friend Jimmy Mack. Oh, I'm sorry. Our friend Jimmy Mack always says that, like, you can go out, have a good cry, and go home and sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you feel like you've done something, worthwhile and tough. But that being said, I've done more 100-milers than I have 100Ks or 50-milers. Okay. I don't know why. Maybe it's ego, but I do enjoy the 100-mile distance. But the journey run distance, I really love, which is kind of the polar opposite, where you're out there for a week at a time with no shelter and no aid and no nothing, just your debit card and the same pair of shoes.
Vacation without a car, right?
Why is that? So why is it that you enjoy that? Would you say? What is it about?
Because it's kind of transformative. I mean, you're no longer running. You're just on a journey, and you're meeting a lot of really cool people, and you're learning a lot about yourself. And so like, the trail run part is beautiful and pretty, and, it's a run, it's a race. You feel like you've accomplished something in a day, but the journey run, you're out there, and when it's done, you can't get it out of your head. You've got something ingrained in your head now that will not go away.
Yeah.
I've done several of them, and I really want to go back and do more. It's such an investment, though. It's an investment in time away from work and training and all that stuff. I wish I could do more of them.
Yeah. What one impacted you the most? What was the most meaningful?
I did Vol State twice. I DNF'd it the first time I did it, and which led me to finish it the second time, which is how I ended up writing the story that I wrote for Amy's book. And then I went on to go do HOTS, which is Heart of the South, which is the evil stepsister of Vol State, because it's about the same distance, but you don't know the course until the night before the race starts. Of course, so the course is a surprise. Yeah. So you don't know where you're going. You get in the bus and they drive you to the start. And then they give you the route as a GPX file about 9:00 at night. And then you have to wake up at 5 in the morning and go run it. And you're about 320, 30, 40 miles away from your car. And everything is unknown, 100% unknown. And you really learn a lot about like what you really need to survive, and what you don't, like what creature comforts are versus what isn't. Yes. And it basically strips you down to the absolute bare, the whole onion analogy. You get stripped down to nothing, where you discover that all you need is just a clothes on your back and occasionally, a gas station hot dog, and someone to pull over on the side of the road and hand you a bottle of water. And you forget about everything. You forget about work and bills, and you forget about all that crap. And you manage to, it's an extremely selfish endeavor because you completely turn inwards. But all you're thinking about is, where am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to get water? But in the process of doing that, you completely check out. And it really enlightens you to like a whole different side of your brain you didn't know you had. At least to me, it did.
Sounds primal. Is the word
it is completely. That's a great word for it.
Screaming in my mind here.
That's a great word for it. Yeah.
And do you find that it's hard to readjust after that?
Yeah, it's really tough. But in a good way. It makes you take everything. It makes you appreciate everything you've got, and not take it for granted.
For a little bit, right?
Yeah, of course. That's why I want to go back and do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you come back and you realize what you've been through, you don't fear anything. I don't fear anything. I could grab my debit card or a $20 bill and go disappear for a day or two, and not be the least bit worried about it. And throw a garbage bag in my pack and a clean pair of socks and some Desitin, and have my wife drop me off 100 miles from home. And so that's a great way to train for those things too, is just have somebody just take you, 50 miles away and leave you there.
Yes.
And you have to get home.
Yeah.
And you really learn like what you actually need, in order to be comfortable and be happy. And it's not very much.
Yeah.
Not much at all.
We do something called training runs.
Yeah.
And that's where we park our car at the train station, and then you run to the next city or 2 cities up, and then you take the train back.
Oh, that's good. That's a great idea.
As a way to get point to point, or more correctly, you run from we go from Hartford to Springfield or whatever, and stop and have leave first train out in the morning, and then run all day, and then have dinner, and it's lots of fun.
That would be
good way to end it. So
yeah, I'm getting excited to start doing some more of those coming up this summer.
Excellent. So I wondered if you'd like to play a game here.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so we have a game called 5 Questions.
Okay.
And there's one question in the game of 5 questions. Don't ask any questions, okay?
Okay.
Right, Fred? There's one rule, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's one rule in 5 questions. Don't ask. I think we're going to make this a regular feature of the show.
Oh my God.
I'm really getting off on this. Like,
I know you're
not
loving
the questions, because the questions are pretty fucking stupid, but the whole priming for the asking of the actual question
loving the
is
process.
just gonna make me so happy. I don't know. So we have 5 questions, and you're going to give me a number between 1 and 5, and then based on that, we're going to ask you that question. So,
okay, 5.
5. Oh my God, you are an outlier. Holy crap!
My God,
did you see that, guys? We were not expecting that.
No one picked 1 though. We've gone a whole night. No one picked 1.
Yeah, I'm glad, because 1 was a question. I thought 1 was kind of weak. 1, just so that we have to tell you what you didn't win.
1 was weak, but 5 was good.
1 was tell me the time that you slipped and fell. So we're not going to have to do that. Okay. Okay.
Moving
so
on.
5 is vomiting mid ultra, good or bad?
Oh, good.
Good,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely. Yeah, and there's 2 schools of thought on that, and I put on a direct races too, and I had a race last weekend, my biggest one of the year, and a guy I know from the west side, from the Seattle area, came over, and he's run it several times, and he's always had a negative experience when he barfs, and he chucked at my race at like mile 40, and he said he felt great. He said it was like hitting the reset button.
Yeah.
And he felt absolutely wonderful after that, and was able to start taking calories in. And for me, knock on wood, that is always what happens with me. Is I haven't had a bad experience when I chuck. Is I always feel great afterwards, and I'm able to start eating and drinking again versus leading up to it. And I generally, I think if you're chucking, it's because you either went out too fast, and you haven't been eating enough or drinking enough, or you ate the wrong thing. I've had that happen before too. But regardless, what about you? How do you feel?
That would be question 4. Worst thing I ever ate. So,
dang it.
Yeah. So I think we can kind of agree on this, right, guys?
Yes,
for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So
vomiting.
vomiting.
Some people have had negative experiences with it. I got a good friend who once he starts, he can't stop, and he can't keep anything down after that.
Too much of a good thing. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's abusing your barf privileges.
Wow. Excellent. Boy. So you mentioned that you're a race director. So what race do you direct? Or races?
I put on several. The biggest one was a week ago, and it's called Badger Mountain Challenge. And it's multiple distances. It's 100-mile, 100K, a 50-mile, a 55K, and a 15K. And 3 of the distances are on Friday, 2 are on Saturday. And if you want, you can sign up and you can run multiple ones, or you can run a race on Friday, 1 on Saturday. You can do that.
Okay.
We have a ruck division for those that like to carry heavy weights and run long distances. We have a 50-mile and a 15K ruck, where they can even make the experience worse than just actually running it.
Yeah.
So why not add 30 pounds?
Or they could carry my pack, which is about 60 pounds. So
yeah, there you go.
So did Stefanie run that? Who was on the show? Like we interviewed.
Yes.
Stefanie ran. Yeah, that was the race that she ran this weekend. She did the 100K without a backpack, and then she did the 15K the next day.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. I thought it sounded familiar there. So.
Yeah, she's a repeat offender at Badger. She comes back.
And actually, another contributor to the book, Rachel and Trecken, won the 100-mile outright.
Oh, very good.
She did.
While throwing up the entire way.
Like this is like proving all of our theorems here.
It's meta. Right? It's all coming together.
It is. It's all
full circle.
It's all about the monkeys.
So. Yeah, Rachel's run Badger before. She's from LA, and she I saw her, and I hadn't seen her in a couple of years, but she came back, and I saw her, and she didn't look right. And I saw her at the start. I said, "You okay?" And she said that she had been up until 2:30 the night before, getting ill. And then she woke up, and she showed up, and she started at 7. And then during the race, like Amy said, she barfed several times, and then she finished and won it outright. She beat everybody, and then she had signed herself up for the 55K the next morning. So she finished in 21 hours, had enough time to
19 and change, actually.
Okay, thank you. I forgot. And then was able to crash in the warming tent for several hours. And then the 55K starts at 6 a.m. And we went in there at 5:30, and she didn't want to get up, and she fell back asleep. And we went in there at 5 minutes to 6, and she didn't want to wake up. She fell back asleep. And finally at 6:30, half hour after the race started, I went in and woke her up, and she said, "Fine." And she got up and put her shoes and clothes on and took off and started it. But unfortunately, she only got about 10 miles down the road and pulled the plug. But she said that she just didn't feel good, and her energy levels were low. But
yeah, can't imagine why. Right?
I wonder why. Yeah.
Yeah. We had 4 people attempt that, though, where you do the 100 and then do the 55K the next morning. And out of the 4, we had 1 person finish it this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that sounds like an exciting event. I think it sounds like some kind of like a car. Like, isn't there like a progressive slots or something like that? Isn't there like gambling that is in line with that? Like you keep double throwing your money back in, and
Yep. Yeah. And if you do end up doing all the distances, you get a special jacket.
Okay.
It's much coveted.
It's
all put on another one. It's called Run with the Goats. And it's a 4.5 mile loop. It's all single track, and you do it 7 times for a 50K run. But at the start of each 4.5 mile loop, you have to drink a beer. And we have a sober division and also the beers division. And you hammer down a beer and go run your 4.5 mile loop and do that 7 times. And
what do the sober people have to drink?
The sober people can drink anything they want, but it has to be bubbly.
Heineken Zero, or
seltzer water, can be soda pop. I have much evidence, right? to back this up that the sobers have it much harder than the beer drinkers.
Yeah.
Because try and pound a can of root beer and then go run 4.5 miles is a lot worse than trying to drink a beer and doing it.
It comes out your nose.
Yeah.
Right. What kid hasn't done that? So
exactly. So that's one of my favorite races. I also put on a backyard ultra too. In the
cool.
fall. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, Jason, I really appreciate you coming on. And I think we're going to kind of, I wanted to ask Amy, do you have any closing arguments or last thoughts?
I don't. I think we've covered a lot of stuff this show.
A lot of ground.
Yeah, we sure did. Fred?
Jason, do you know Pat McHenry?
I know the name. It sounds really familiar.
He and his daughter ran Vol State probably a few years before you. Okay.
Yeah.
And he wrote the longest Vol State report I had ever read front to back. Now, I'm so far I'm a DNF on yours, but I'm going to get through it. I am going to get through it.
Whose race report is longer, his or mine?
Oh, yours is definitely. Yours is
longer, but it is not the longest in the book. I was actually thinking about having a final section in the book called the novellas. That was going to be yours and Jan's, but I put yours earlier in the book.
Excellent. Because of Badger, I haven't had time to dive into the book yet, unfortunately, but I'm looking forward to reading the whole dang thing.
Excellent. Yep. Very good. Well, guys, and to all the guests who were on today, I just want to say, thank you to everyone. It's just quite an amazing group. And Amy, congratulations to you for, being the ringleader here and, getting this group together. It's been a lot of fun interacting with people, lots of, oh my gosh, just so many cool people that we spoke to tonight. And, if this hasn't piqued your interest for reading this book, then you probably just don't know how to read. And, there's no shame in that, right? You can learn. Okay. So, all right. So I guess, as we say, if you've made it to all of our listeners out there, first of all, thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, of course, seek professional help, and we will see you all in a mile.
Mile and a half.
Mile and a half.
All right. All right. Hey, Fred, time for the Magic 8 Ball.
Ooh, Magic 8 Ball. What are we asking?
I don't know. We need a good question. Amy, do you have a good yes or no question to ask the Magic 8 Ball? Will anybody make it this far in the episode?
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Let's try that.
Should we divide this into part 1 and part 2?
No, because it's a DNF episode. No. If they DNF it, it's good.
If they DNF it, it's all good.
I was just going to say, the question ought to be, will I DNF my next Ultra?
Oh, no. We asked that. We had Corey Waltering on and asked if he was going to beat this other guy who's a friend of ours. So, and it, unfortunately for Corey, it didn't look good. But this said signs point to yes, is that people will reach the end of this episode. So congratulations.
There you go.
All right.
Excellent.
Hello, it's me, Cultra, but thank you to all of our Patreons. We are 112% listener supported. So be sure to thank a podcast famous Patreon today. Here we go. Hashtag Hundujo. Carrot $$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$$ Albert James Garlatan 113th mile. Mile and a half. A. Marcus Amy Jennifer Hanlon's friend Amy Mower Power Amy Sorensen Andy Tid Angela Rose Anna G. Anton de Betancourt Austin Frankazam Pulatov Ben Nalette Ben 1 and Benjamin Griffin Berkshire Trailheads Bessic Hustle Bikini Chicken Bill Gibbs Bill Gilpatrick Bill Odendale Brian Musiak Brian O'Bryce Henley Celeste Fong Sherry Bilby Chip Prefers Snickerdoodles Chris Rosol Christina Chinhing Christopher Colangelo Clement Scented Chunks Chloris Reinhard Crutch Lee Dan Brehant David Hoople David Hyatt David Kaplan Ellen Cretella Connell Ellie Pell Emily Meyer Enrique Tello Eric Wester Franklin Gandiaga Fred Willsfuck Arby's Jeffrey Miller Heidi Stearns JJ Durand Jackie Smith Jack Sarbach Jake Coteen Jamie Myler Jank Jessica Crandall Julian Ellefson Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Trail Shots, Joseph Morris Rowe, Just_Plotter, Justin Kuski Karen Prado Kelsey ENG Lancelot Laura Ricky Lauren Edelman Lawdog. Lee and Zarja Lenny Euro S Mom Liz Vicious 30 Moche Macho Mark W Kelly Marty Dutcho Matt Nilsson Michael Keogh Michael Lowe Presti Michelle Pompom O'Neill Microscopic Porcupine Mike Reardon Miles Victor's Mommy Craigie Monkey Stuffer Name Nat Zilska Nicole Carey Once a Runner Peter Keogh Powered by Pop Tarts Rebecca Gonzalez Kreisberg Richard Runs Trails on YouTube Finishes Traveler 100 Rob the Bear Breckenridge Ron Lacandra Ross Bielek Rufus and Brenda Chaffee Fortin Chaffee Chocolatey Chicken Run the Whites At Midnight Rusty Red Wag Gin Samuel Dibdall Sarah Porras Scott Johnson Simon C. Edget Sco Buffs Slurpee Runner Steep Endurance Stephen Estremera Tie 10 Junk Miles Get some while supplies last. The Blue Hills Contingent The Lazarus Crew Tom Staradai Tony D'Idamizio Tunxus Jamie McCusker Ultra Walker Waldhammer William, a Euroki Bro, on YouTube Euro Jara, ZZZZMI Cookdesit Iron the Rear. Thank you to all of our Patreons. We are 112% listener supported. Thank you again. Bye bye.